I don't think we can just walk out of the studio. I think we actually have to do the show.
I mean, do you think
I don't
we
think we can leave.
We could put.
I mean, at some point the music
recording or
stops and
something.
we go live. I don't think we can just leave.
Well, it'd be at least a couple of minutes before the powers that be realize that the off-air alarm's going off. So I mean, at least we could make a quick getaway.
But we would be the ones to hear it. I don't know when I don't know if they get a but. I think we're on right
there
now.
is. Oh, Jesus.
Hey, George Brauchler with you on the very last show of 2022. It's exciting to be here. It's the end of the year. There's a lot. Listen, this is going to be a very light, easy show. There's some stuff to talk about. There's some things that have popped up in current events that we'll bring up. But man, I want this to be an easy 4 hours for a couple reasons. One, maybe half of you have to go to work today that had to go to work yesterday. It feels like that is a big change as we head into this weekend. I will tell you, too, that having spent a little time with some Army guys yesterday, those guys are all on a training. I don't know what to call it, a training holiday, but they get that today. And for the Guard, they get Monday as well. So for them, it's a big, long 4-day weekend. If you're part of that group, thanks for what you've done for Colorado. You know, the demands in 2023 are going to be probably even more unpredictable and larger than they were, especially when we started off the year. And we'll get into some of the stories of the year with the Marshall Fire. I mean, I think we are just now a year into that. Billy, you and I were not together for that.
No, we were not.
No, because it was still Pete time.
Yeah.
But what I remember about the Marshall Fire was it was going to be the last show of the year for us as well. And I think Geronimo was covering. And Geronimo and I got together and said, how can we not have to come in from, I think it was 9 to 10 a.m. or something? How can we do that on that last day of the year? And our answer was, well, let's just get a couple of high-profile interviews with law enforcement execs. We'll get Tony Spurlock. We'll get, maybe it was Tyler Brown, and we'll sit down and just have a conversation about, because crime was starting to really become an issue as we headed into 2022. And I remember we have that thing fired up, and it was the Marshall Fire. And so, you know, during our little after action report, Kelly comes the next week and he goes, hey, got a minute? Let's talk about the show. And he's like, listen, I love what you guys are doing. I love it. He goes, but let's just talk about, and Pete too. Pete texts me, he goes, hey, listen to the show. Hey, good interviews. But listen, really the story of the day was the Marshall Fire. I'm like, I know we weren't there. I mean, we just made the decision to record. It turned out that way, and it was a lesson learned, man. When you go pre-recorded, you are rolling the die.
Yeah, you really are. And that's one of the most difficult things about doing these morning shows is because you can prep everything the night before, and then something goes boom overnight, and you just throw everything out the window.
You're stuck.
Yeah,
You're stuck. So as much as I want to tell you that'll never happen again, I'd like 2023 to be as pre-recorded as possible.
Oh,
so
me too.
We've actually, Billy and I have already just finished all of January.
Yes, we have.
So
just early this morning. So we even recorded these little bits here on the
yeah, that's right. This part right here, I'm actually in a bathrobe somewhere at a bar trying to chase down one of our guests.
Yes.
Yesterday too, a couple quick things. One, I got a haircut. So if you're looking at this on the YouTube channel, and you should go to YouTube, search us up. The problem with the haircut, and first off, the reason for the haircut, I would have gone through the year without one, but I have something called a CAC card. And if you are part of the government or the military, you know that CAC is CAC, Controlled Access Card. It is not just the current, but the future. Until they put these chips in our arms, you got to carry around this card. It's the way you check your email. It's the way that you log into this. I mean, you can't really do anything without this CAC card. Thus, when I went to go check my email for some stuff that was related to some time-sensitive things I needed to get done, and my computer says, error, there are no certificates for the user. I'm like, oh, what do you mean there's no certificates? So I reach out to our super smart people at G6. That's where all the data gets done, all the computer dudes. And by the way, they are no less annoying in the military than they are in real life, right?
Typical IT people.
Yeah. Where it's the eye roll, like they're dealing with a Neanderthal.
Did you try turning it off and on?
Right. Do you need help wiping too, buddy? You know, I mean, you just get that kind of sending kind of thing. Like, it's just a computer. Step out of the way, geezer. And they do all that stuff. But they said, hey, you're going to have to come in and get a new CAC card, which means I got to get a new picture. Now, it's not a happy picture. I wanted to smile, but they don't encourage the big smile. But my hair was kind of hippie-ish before, so I had to go get a haircut, did the Floyd's thing, cut it short, and went and got the picture. But then when I throw on my hat, which is something you and I have been doing, it looks like I'm some kind of a patient of something.
Yeah,
right? Like it covers
my hair. I'm also thinking you kind of missed an opportunity there. You could have, dyed your hair. Could have gone with a nice purple, maybe a red. I'm just saying that it could make your picture a little bit more interesting.
I don't know if I can pull that off until I lose some weight and I go have the Botox or the filler or whatever that is that men do these days to try to maintain their youth. It just feels like that would be really a reach. And then, of course, I need to get the Mustang. Once I get all that going.
Yeah.
And an earring, like a diamond stud earring, a la Bruce Willis, 1988.
Yeah, that's what you need. Yeah, left earring. Yeah,
nothing's going to look better than that. And then the other good news that I wanted to brag on was last night when we went through the mail. Turns out Big Trey, got himself into Penn State, which was sort of his. I don't think this is going to work out. A buddy of his had applied and gotten in a little bit earlier, and so that's really thrown a monkey wrench into things. Got to spend some time talking to the big guy this weekend about it, because he had gotten into every place he'd applied, but his heart was really kind of like, you know what? I think I want to go to CSU. They have a great program. They're local. And I'd asked him a month ago, is there any school that you're still waiting on that could get you thinking otherwise? And he said Penn State. And in my mind, I thought, please don't get into Penn State. Please stay here in Colorado.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, of course, dude gets into Penn State. Yeah. So I don't know. Now. We're going to have to do this show from College Station, because I predict there's going to be a tour in the future. He has not yet been out there. He did it just based off the academics. And I don't know.
And as we know, you talked about it before, that the accessibility for him, and it is something that he does have to do the tour. This is not something he can just go in blindly or even take a virtual. He has to see the campus and figure out what it's like to navigate that campus on a daily basis for him as a student, and what are the services, and what are the what's the access look like, how difficult is it going to get in and out of the buildings,
and not just to see it, as you said. He's got to experience it. He's got to go up the ramp and press the buttons and do the things. He's got to see. He's got to see what dorm accessibility looks like. And Penn State ain't a young school. It's been around for a bit.
Yeah.
The cool news is, and I don't think I had a chance to share it with Grandpa yet, is Grandpa got into Penn State and went a whole year there before, as he put it, he got distracted from academics by a whole bunch of other things and ended up losing his scholarship.
Oh, geez.
And then ended up finishing up at a place called Hofstra on Long Island, back when they were the Flying Dutchman. Now, it turns out maybe Flying Dutchman is no longer woke enough. So some years ago, they changed to, I think, like the Tigers, which is lame. Tigers is lame. Flying Dutchman sounds...
Flying Dutchman is awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm sorry. When I understand the woke crowd, but when one of the major characters in SpongeBob SquarePants is a ghost named the Flying Dutchman, I think we're okay with it. I'm just saying that maybe it's okay having the school mascot be the Flying Dutchman. I think you're going to be just fine. But oh well, what do I know? I'm just this dude.
Somebody just texted in response to my last thing about the haircut here. You need to do men's clinic commercials.
Yes, I need to do that too.
Thank you, Texter.
Yeah, stuff over here in the back porch is going away. It's really bad.
And in no way am I trying to scuttle the efforts of our sales team. But as you know, there's some ED stuff out there.
Yeah.
And ED is not executive director. And there are people that advertise on that. And of course, Stefan's the best person for that. But I'm just saying that while that's out there, and I think it's valuable, and I know folks that benefit from it. The advertising piece is hard for a guy who has such a shallow, fragile ego as myself, because I'd be quick to be like, one of the greatest products that I've never had to use, not once, not yet. And I will.
You can ask my wife. Yes.
Yeah, you can. I've never had to. But anyway, thank you for the men's clinic thing. Here's good morning, George. You cannot lie about the bathrobe now that you are on the video. Not that I will subject myself to that kind of visual in this time of day. Billy, we are going to have like a robe Wednesday or something.
Oh, we're going to have to. Yeah, we're going to have to. And I, unfortunately, I forgot to wear the special hat for New Year's today. So let's just say it's dark and I'm sleepy in the morning. So
what do you got going on? It looks like an owl.
Actually, this one this morning, this is a hat from Bayern Munich. That is the big monster soccer team in Germany.
Just there.
Yep. This is a hat that commemorates their triple inside winning the league 3 years in a row. 1999, 2000, 2001. They won the league 3 years in a row. It says their hat trick. And then up there, they have the Bundesliga.
So there's no German hat trick. It's just hat trick.
Yeah, it's just hat trick. Yeah, they stole it from us. And then there's also the Champions League trophy up there as well, because they won the Champions League in 2001, which was a big deal. It was the first time they had done a double, and I believe it was 25 years. And they had just recently lost in the Champions League final in 1998 to a historic match where Manchester United comes back on them and beats them in overtime, sealing one of Sir Alex Ferguson's greatest accomplishments as a manager at Manchester United.
Wow.
So it was a real heartbreak. So the fact that they then turned around, ran 3 league tables in a row, and then got the Champions League final, it was kind of cool. So this is commemorative, and my father bought this for me when he was in Germany at the time.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so
that's
it's kind of
nice
cool. So it's kind of a neat one. Yeah, I didn't tell him at the time that Borussia Dortmund's actually my German team, but that's okay. I'm happy to have this hat. I'm very happy to have this.
There were so many words in that conversation that I recognized.
Yeah.
Like when you say ran the something table, the league table,
league
like
table.
3 times, I'm like instantly thinking of table shuffleboard or something like I run the table.
Yeah, no. They are the monsters inside of Germany. They're the guys that they go and they buy everybody else's players. They're basically the New York Yankees of the German league. That's what they are. They go around and they buy everybody else's players. Yeah, so they do a good job with it. They do a fantastic job, and they have this innate ability to just magically replace players and find some of the best. So
I like
I'm enjoying seeing Sadio Mane play with him this year. But yeah, it hurts my Dortmund team
right there.
Yes.
Listen,
so what's your hat?
And I want to get back to the soccer thing here too for some news, but I am flying the colors of, again, I got up like Billy a little bit late here. This monster is Rugby Town, USA. And if you look closely at it, it says Glendale, Colorado. Now that may not be self-evident, but some time ago, Mayor Mike Donovan and the rest of the Glendale City Council got together, and they decided they were going to bring rugby to Colorado and really try to blow it up, not just here, but really throughout America, and make it a big deal. And so that Infinity Stadium that's out there in Glendale, if you haven't been there,
it's a really cool stadium.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is, or at least it was at the time it was constructed, the only rugby designated stadium in North America. That includes Canada and Mexico. Yeah, it was a big deal. And so they have the Glendale Raptors there. And I want to tell you that I've gone to so many matches. I haven't. I've gone to a couple. But early on, they wanted to really grow the youth interest in rugby. So there was this United States of America Youth Rugby League. And they asked me to be on the board of it. And this is going back years. And I said, sure, I'd love to do it. We didn't have the ability just for transportation. I don't know if you know Glendale. Glendale's like a square mile entertainment district right in the middle of Denver, right? Like it's such a unique place, and you got to go up I-25, get to Colorado, you turn right, and all of a sudden you're in there. And by the way, while we're on the topic of Glendale, they just had a guy retire, super cop for a number of years out there named Mike Gross, who was a commander, and he finally retired and has moved on to the private sector, and never got a chance to say congratulations to him. I missed his going away thing, but Mike, great guy. So they started this thing. I went out there several times. In fact, they had a Home Builders Foundation thing out at that Infinity Conference Center. It's really pretty remarkable. And this was one of the hats at the time. And they had a whole bunch of, themed apparel that they were giving out, because they're really pushing, and maybe they still are, this idea that Glendale was going to be the rugby capital of America. I don't know if that's worked out yet, but rugby is a really cool sport. It just hasn't caught on. It's a lot like soccer here. Do you know what I mean? Where it's just constantly on the doorstep of becoming one of the big four, but it's going to be but it just hasn't done it. And rugby is probably a generation or so behind soccer.
Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time. Just some of the weird rules and some of the physicality that we're going to have to figure it out. The scrum is a very weird thing for us to figure out as Americans.
By the way, these dudes are tough.
Oh yeah, they are. They're ridiculously tough.
Holy
They're
crap.
Incredibly tough.
It's football-ish without the helmets and the pads and all the other stuff.
Yeah, you got to know how to get hit and tackle. And so I guess after that long story, what I heard from you was that my hat is better than yours.
Yes,
because yours is about something that is hopeful, and mine's about something that happened. So,
yours is past tense.
So
mine is optimism. Mine's the 2023 hat.
Yeah.
Yours is really maybe the 2020 hat. But I because we were talking about soccer, I wanted to give you an opportunity. If we don't have time here, you can do it in the next segment too. But football across the world, soccer suffered an epic loss yesterday. I mean, when you talk about GOAT, there's really only one or two names that pop up, and one of them we lost yesterday.
Yeah, Pele. And he is a important figure in my life growing up because, again, I'm a kid in America playing soccer. So we had very, very few heroes, very few examples. And he was the first. It was he and Diego Maradona as I was growing up. And they were the ones that were basically the studs. And I didn't always gravitate towards Maradona. I appreciated what he was able to do. But after you see the 1986 World Cup and you realize the hand of God and things that he does inside the game, Pele was the man. Pele, for me, was the person that was the first beautiful soccer player I'd ever seen. The first person that was doing things on the field and with the ball that I had never seen before and could not fathom. There's a shot in one of the World Cups where he's on the right-hand side of the penalty box and he shoots with his right foot and he curls it around the goalkeeper into the far post. That is ridiculous given what was going on in the sport at that time. I mean, it's almost like Pele's skills at the time would be like taking Michael Jordan and having him play with some of the very first basketball players ever in America.
Wow.
That's how far ahead Pele was at times on what he did on the field.
How was he so far ahead?
Part of it is, and I think I've shown you clips of the other Brazilian that's absolutely phenomenal, Ronaldinho. Pele took stuff from the training ground and tried it on the field. He was, it's the idea of playing with freedom and imagination and joy that they talk about in soccer, that when you are so worried about the construct of the team and the construct of what goes on the field, you prevent yourself from playing with joy and beauty is inside of the sport. And once you let go of that, once you understand your responsibilities, but also understand what is available to you on the field, and you let go, that's when you begin to be a transcendent player. And that's some of the things that Pele was able to do, that he just had these ideas and said, well, I can see it, so I can make it happen. And that was what he was able to do. He did things that nobody else was thinking about at that time. And he changed what was happening again. And he walks away with not one, not two, but three. Just like there had three World Cups, which is ridiculous.
How about Messi?
Messi is right up there with him. But again,
how many does he have? How many?
Messi only has one, and that's gonna be the difficult
crazy.
Part. Yeah,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, there are other trophies that Messi has that really put him on the level that Pele was, and also the longevity of the career. But it is going to be really tough to supplant Pele until somebody else, wins 3 World Cups, and you have to realize that is 12 years. That is being dominant in the sport for a span of 12 years as a Brazilian. So yeah, that was a tough one yesterday. That was a lot of little Billy sitting around going, and then thinking about things that happened when I was a kid.
And he was a great ambassador for the sport as well. He was kind of ubiquitous through the 70s and 80s. Everybody knows Pele. It's almost like I don't want to put him in the same category, but very close, like Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Right. Do you know what I mean? Like everybody on the planet has heard of Pele. That's an amazing thing. One name.
When the NASL, the North American Soccer League, bought Pele and brought him over here for the New York Cosmos, I was just doing backflips. Unfortunately, the league floundered because they decided, well, only 2 of the teams are going to be able to sign any of the good players. Everybody else is going to suck. And so it tanked the league because they put all the superstars in New York mostly, and that was a problem. But it was nice to have Pele, and I couldn't believe that he would come here and play. But then again, it was indoor soccer, and he couldn't run as much. But it was great to see him. I get to see him a couple of times.
3 World Cups is ridiculous.
Oh,
and over a period of time, and they weren't consecutive, which means he had to have sustained excellence over more than a decade.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Yeah, he's a person that he changed a lot of the ways that you talk about the game. There are certain players. Johan Cruyff, the Dutch player, is another one that plays. Franz Beckenbauer out of Germany talks about his influence and how he changes how the game is played. But for me, none of them did that more than what Pele did, because Pele brought not only a team spirit, but he brought an individual joy and beauty to what was available to the individual player that other people didn't have. I mean, George Best, amazing English goal scorer. But again, didn't play with the beauty that Pele didn't have the style. It was magic to watch Pele when he was in his prime. But it's difficult. They're great players now. There's some amazing players. If you want to watch someone that's an absolutely unbelievable striker right now, go watch Manchester City and their Norwegian Erling Haaland. Watch him. He is otherworldly.
Really?
Yeah, he's something special. So if you want to talk about someone that is transforming the game currently, he's your best example. Someone that is just taking it, and he's got 20 goals already in the Premier League, and that is just stupid. Yeah, he's a monster. So yeah, take a look. Erling Haaland's a beast.
I don't know how to put that in perspective. Yeah. I don't know what that's relative to. Like the number 2 player has 3 or something, you know?
Well, the thing would be is that think about when Shaquille O'Neal came into the league. That's what Erling Haaland is doing to the Premier League at this point. That's what he's dominating his position at that clip that Shaquille did when he first entered the NBA. He is that much of a defensive problem. He is that big. He's that powerful. He's that fast. And all he wants to do is score goals. That's all he lives for. And you give him the power and speed that he has, plus the knowledge, because his father played professionally as well. So he knows the game at a level that other people sometimes don't. He's something special. So if you want to see someone today that is going to be magical, go watch Erling Haaland at Manchester City. Yeah.
Well, I was going to go Google him, but someone just texted in a couple things. One, that they flew with the Glendale Raptors rugby team as recently as 2021. They were going someplace, and they were also on the plane. That is cool. That means they're still going. Someone else said Pele was in that soccer war movie, Victory. That is true. That is a Sylvester Stallone, Michael Caine thing. Pretty good movie at the time. That's like early 80s. It strikes me that was. That was a pretty good movie. We're taking on the Nazis. Here's what I want to do. We're going to come back, of course, and do the best produced portion of the show, and that is the Thorpe Report and the You Choose the News. But there are a bunch of losses, and we've just touched upon one. What I'd like to do with each segment today is go through by month who we lost last year, just because some of these I'd totally forgotten about. Some of these I remembered, and some I'm just like, oh my God, that's right. So starting January of last year, Dan Reeves. That hits close to home, of course.
Oh, wow.
Dan, longtime Denver Broncos head coach, took us to 3 Super Bowls that we got squarely crushed in each of them, but he took us to 3 Super Bowls in about a 4 or 5 year period of time.
Dan Reeves is responsible for some of the greatest sports memories in my life and some of the greatest disappointments in my life. It's just,
I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
And listen, we got John Elway. I mean, that's kind of a big deal.
That's a huge deal. Thank you, Indianapolis.
Yeah, thank you for that. Sidney Poitier last January passed. Dude was a brilliant actor, as you know, paved the way for so many more that came after him. The most distinctive speaking style and voice of any actor you could probably, I mean, like James Earl Jones' voice you would know anywhere. Sidney Poitier, pretty close to that right there. Bob Saget last January. Hard to imagine. Full House, which I never watched. America's Funniest Home Videos. I watched, I think, the first season until it became obvious that people were just staging things. You know, the spontaneous ones, love those.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Durst, if you guys don't remember this guy, he was the source, or at least the topic of the HBO docuseries called Jinxed. This is a guy who was quite clearly a repeat murderer who'd figured out a way to get acquitted based on self-defense in Texas and was on death's doorstep. I mean, this looked like the crypt keeper in a wheelchair being tried in Los Angeles. He lost, was sentenced, and then died, which means, I think, because his appeal can't be perfected, his conviction goes the way of the dodo. Charles McGee, you don't know that name. I didn't either. He died at 102 last January. He was one of the Tuskegee Airmen who flew 409 fighter combat missions over 3 separate wars. Impossible. How about Meatloaf? Billy Meatloaf.
Wow. That was always that was a weird one to me, because it's Meatloaf, and I never was really a big a fan in the music world as everybody else did.
Yeah, he got into some acting too. He did a little bit of the acting.
He did. Yeah, I never was super impressed. I mean, it's one of those things that, Meatloaf is good, but it's
not as
nice,
good as Turkey.
Hello. I just keep thinking there are other people that did it better, but that's just me. And I'm just a sour
big
old
name.
Man. Yeah,
but you know the name, and that's a big one. And then Louis Anderson. He was only 68, which is
awful.
Yeah, but obviously the guy carried around a lot of weight, and that's got to be a health issue that plagues him. But Louis Anderson, so very funny. I remember 30 years ago or so when he was coming on the scene, so very, very funny. And then, of course, finished up with some Emmy-winning performances in Baskets, which was also funny, playing dude's mom.
Oh, it's great.
And then the last one for January we'll cover, and it touches us in a weird way.
I beg your pardon?
Howard Hessman.
Oh,
Dr. Johnny Fever from
Wow.
WKRP.
jeez.
One of my favorite episodes for a whole bunch of reasons, not the least of which is law enforcement,
Yeah.
is there's an episode where he and Venus Flytrap bring in a member of, I think it's State Patrol, and they're going to do an on-air test to show how consuming alcohol slows down your reaction time. And both he and Venus are going shot for shot, and amazingly,
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. Yes.
Venus is under the table. Can't ring the bell anymore. Howard Hessman, Dr. Johnny Fever, is getting faster. His reaction time is getting better as he continues to drink. It gets so bad the trooper starts drinking.
Yes.
Anyway,
It's
that
so
was
good.
WKRP. Listen, hey,
such
when
a
we
good
come
show.
back, we'll get the Thorpe Report. You choose the news on this last show of 2022. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
You're back in the House of Pain right here, George Show, in the 6 o'clock hour, 710 KNUS. We've got the time, even though we went long on that first segment, to do all the magical stuff that takes place in that hour. That is, of course, the Thorpe Report, where you get to hear real news. And then you choose the news and this will be the last You Choose the News. And is this the loser edition, Billy?
Yes, it is. We got a couple of weeks
Oh,
of
sweet
loser
goodness.
edition. So yeah, we've got some losers that are going to be
not only the last You
today.
Choose the News, the last loser edition of You Choose the News, and I think you probably have your music queued up for that when we get there. Of 2022. That's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
We're going to keep this thing going in 2023. We're going to try to expand it to 6 hours.
We're going to try. Yeah, but salespeople's got to do their job.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
Please take the helm.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, sir. Well, good morning. Snow is going to begin in the mountains again this afternoon. Yep. Winter storm watches and warnings are already in effect until a Monday for 1 to 2 feet of snow across the mountain area. Right here in Denver, it's going to be cool and dry, highs in the 40s. Clouds are going to increase on Saturday while that snow is building in the mountains. New Year's Day, it's going to be mild. More mountain snow, chance of snow for Denver, just a little bit across the eastern plains as well. Snow is expected for the next morning on Monday, as just in time for you to go back to work. And the weather's going to stay chilly and unsettled. A year after the costliest and most devastating fire in Colorado's history, we talked about it earlier, the investigation is still going on to the Marshall Fire, but it is nearly complete. Boulder County Sheriff Joe Pelly said the findings should come out in the next few weeks, and the sheriff's office is leading the investigation. Elsewhere, the Aurora Police Department's Major Crimes Homicide Unit is investigating a shooting that left one man dead on Thursday afternoon. Officers were dispatched to a shooting around the 1600 block of Alton Street, and that's about 2:40 in the afternoon. When officers arrived, they found a man inside an apartment suffering from an apparent gunshot wound, taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries, pronounced dead a short time later. Adams County Coroner's Office is going to release the victim's identity at a later time. A semi-truck driver was arrested for vehicular homicide after a man suffered fatal injuries in unincorporated Arapahoe County on Wednesday afternoon. It was around 11:30 in the morning when investigators with the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office responded to a welfare check in unincorporated Arapahoe County. Easy for me to say. They found a man 55 years old on the ground next to a white passenger van. Deputies say South Metro Fire Rescue personnel performed life-saving measures, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. According to the Sheriff's Office, the victim's van was parked next to a white semi-truck driven by 31-year-old Eric Mejia. When Mejia started to drive away, he allegedly hit the victim and his van, the sheriff's office said, and then the driver left the scene, leaving him to then perish. So not a good thing. Yeah.
No. How old was that guy?
The guy that was hit was 55. The guy that was the driver was 31.
You got to go to prison, dude.
Yep, got him after that time. And the issue is this. I'm pretty sure he knew. He may not have known they hit the victim, but he probably knew he hit the van, and then he just kept going. And I'm sorry. At that point, you're just being an asshat.
Look,
So, come on.
the hit and run thing here in Colorado, and again, even hit and run homicide, is still a probation eligible charge.
No.
Worst thing you could face is up to 12 years in the Department of Corrections. But because of our convoluted, crappy system out here, you're going to be parole eligible in about 6 or less for that kind of conduct. Now, I don't know what other charges. I mean, we just don't care. And there's nothing more gutless than hitting someone or something that has a person in it and fleeing from the scene. Yeah. I can't tell you how many attorneys come in and they're like, well, he was scared. And I'm like, I'll bet.
Yeah.
So what?
Actually,
yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure that in our legal department that scared is necessarily exculpatory.
As long as you acted out of fear, it's mitigating.
Oh,
like,
yes, it's okay.
Who's in a situation like that and they're like, this doesn't faze me at all. I'm not horrified. I just would prefer to not go to jail.
Yes, I just made a huge mistake. I probably have impacted the lives and the well-being of another person in this city, but this is about me and my feelings.
For the legislature to maintain a probation eligible charge, they have to believe that there are facts where something like that can happen, where you're involved in a collision that results in a death. And there are some series of some facts out there that would cause someone to go, oh, you don't need to go to jail for that. I've yet in 27 years to think of what those facts are. But some people have said, well, what if it's a passenger? What if you're driving along and you're passenger and you're in a car accident and I'm like, you got to stick around, dude.
Yeah, you still got to stick around because you're kind of a witness. You kind of got to talk about what happened.
A real witness.
I love how the legislature is like, well, if this maybe possibly could happen once, then we got to make sure there's a rule for it.
There's already fail-safe stuff built into the system where the judge can find extraordinary mitigating circumstances. It already exists in the law, but our continually extra woke legislature, like next year will be more woke than this past year. They continue to find reasons to say nobody should ever be held accountable for anything ever, unless you are a white dude.
Yeah, I've heard that the legislature is going to be so woke, they're going to mandate litter boxes in every business just in case you have a furry. I think that's supposed to happen. All right. And elsewhere, over in Commerce City, some interesting news. Suncor Energy Refinery is shut down. Crews are inspecting damaged equipment after extreme weather hit Colorado last week. Basically, right around December 24th, it was determined that the entire facility would have to be shut down and put into safe mode, the company said, to allow for inspection of all units. There was a small fire that injured people there too, so that's kind of the reason as well. Company said it's anticipating progressive restart. No, not a retroactive, but a progressive restart. They're woke as well, and they're going to return to full operation, they hope, by late Q1 in 2023. So, however, that Suncor Energy means they're not going to be processing the gas and the stuff that we use to drive around the cars. So AAA says, yeah, you're going to see a gas price increase here locally because of that until it reopens. Also, prison secretaries, case managers, maintenance workers, and counselors are picking up shifts to guard people like terrorists, cartel bosses, and spies at our nation's most secure prison because of short staffing. Yes, we all will sleep better knowing that behind the fence of FCC Florence Supermax Prison, the country's most notorious criminals, people like Eric Rudolph, the Boston Bomber, El Chapo, they're guarded by, secretaries, case managers, and maintenance workers. You will sleep well tonight, won't you? Yeah, I don't know.
Nothing but the best.
Yeah, I know. The idea is they're like, what's short staffing? I'm sorry. I go back to it. It seems cold, but I keep going back to it. If you can't hire somebody at the price that you're paying, it means you have to pay more. That's like Econ 101. I'm not saying that it's necessarily the best choice, but that's kind of what it says. I just, oh well. But, I'm just an idiot. And speaking of idiots, yes, it is time to play everybody's favorite radio news game show, You Choose the News, where we scour the interwebs to find ridiculous stories and then put stupid headlines on them and play this amazing game. Why? Well, because they still let us for some ridiculous reason. But today, it is a special edition. It is loser time.
We're going to see the best collection of losers this park's seen for many a year.
Oh, the Losers Club. Bunch of losers.
You're such a loser.
You made me feel like a loser!
She's a loser.
You are such a loser.
Loser.
Call my dad a loser?
Yeah, just like you, Ricky. Check out this loser.
Okay, who's calling me a loser?
Loser.
Yes, Loser Day here on You Choose the News. We are proudly sponsored by Mr. Boston's. I'm going to give you some really low-key cocktails at the end of this where you can be the life of the party. You're going to have everybody asking, what in the hell are you drinking? And then they're going to think you're super cool. But I'll tell you about it in just a second. But first, we must play the game. All righty, sir. Here are your headlines. Headline number 1, entrepreneurship is parasitic. Headline number 2, imagination failure. Headline number 3, Christmas Carol cancellation. And headline number 4, well, that's not going to help. Alrighty, sir. Your choices this morning are entrepreneurship is parasitic, imagination failure, Christmas Carol cancellation, or, well, that's not going to help. Your choice.
Is it too late to do the Christmas Carol one? Have we gotten ourselves past the sell-by date on that?
Oh, gosh, no.
Let's go cancel Christmas Carol.
All right. Christmas Carol cancellation. Yes, here we're going to be traveling all the way over to England to meet 55-year-old Thomas Mazzetti and his wife, Hannah, who is 33. They already have a couple of kids, and they have developed a special hatred.
What?
Yes, a deep, dark, bubbling hatred for a Christmas Carol. Yes, there is one particular Christmas Carol that they hate. Hannah, the 33-year-old, says this started back when she was younger, when she worked in a cafe, and during the Christmas season, her boss would play this particular carol on repeat. No, not a mixtape, just this carol over and over.
What?
And
Oh,
over.
good Lord.
So
like it's
she
the
has-
small world, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. So she has developed a particular dislike for this Christmas Carol. So she and her husband are embarking upon a journey. They have decided to form a group that is looking for GoFundMe and other charitable donations to see if they can buy the rights to this particular carol and never have it be played again. Yes, they want to own the song to tell everybody else you can no longer hear it.
Wonderful.
Yes,
That's Christmassy.
what is that carol? What would be your guess? If you had your most hated Christmas carol, what would you guess?
Oh my God. There's
Yeah.
it just depends on how many times you hear them.
It's true. This is one
Please
though
tell
that
me
is
it's not one
universally
that's
hated. This is one that, this is one that is pretty much universally hated. It's a great
I love
song.
that one. I love that
It's a
one.
really, really good song, but people hate it. In fact, there is even a Christmas game that some people play to
no, I
try
hate
and
myself
avoid
for not
hearing
knowing
it.
this.
My friends and I play this game. That's why I know.
Really? Is it a drinking game?
No, it'd be much more fun if it was, but no.
No, I don't know.
It is called Whamageddon. Yes, it is whether or not you hear Last Christmas by Wham.
My God.
So Hannah and Thomas are raising money so they can buy the rights to Last Christmas to make sure that you and I never get to hear it again. So far, they've raised around $61,000. However, it's a long road ahead of them. The value of said song is somewhere between 15 and 20 million. So they're not going to get there. So
I don't
again,
think so either.
Yeah.
But it's a great cause. I
It
like
is.
the idea.
Yeah.
That's
it's
the
a great
American
cause.
spirit there.
All right. Your second choice this morning, sir. Entrepreneurship is parasitic. Imagination failure, or, well, that's not going to help.
Imagination failure, please.
Imagination failure. Here we are traveling to South Dakota Mines University, and we are going to meet Jackson Cheney. He is a computer engineering major, and he has spent a lot of his free time there at the school in Minecraft. And he has done some amazing things, and it actually makes me a little sad. I'm a little disappointed because Jackson went into Minecraft, and he spent his time building an exact replica of South Dakota Mines University. He's now offering virtual tours in Minecraft of his beloved school. And it still makes me sad because, again, here's a college student that has lots of free time. And he has been given a virtual world where he can create anything. And his imagination led him to create the school he's at right now. What are you thinking? Jackson, come on, man. You could have done anything. And you built your school. You disappoint me, son. You
Maybe
disappoint
that
me.
gets him an A in something.
Yeah,
You know,
it's not going to get him a date. So yeah, help him somewhere.
well,
Yeah.
there's that. Although there are probably women out there who are attracted to that guy. I just
Yeah.
want to know who they are.
Yes, exactly. Oh, all righty. And your final choice this morning: entrepreneurship is parasitic, or, well, that's not going to help.
Well, that's not going to help.
Well, that's not going to help. Here we're traveling to Arizona, and we are going to meet 34-year-old Stephen Joseph Anderson of Mesa. He was arrested recently with one felony count of disorderly conduct, a felony count of, well, we'll get to that in a little bit later. See, what happens is that Mr. Anderson met a woman, Rebecca Lynn Lambert, 33, at a park near his house on November 12th. The two had been, talking through social media, and they were hooking up to collectively do some drugs. So they went to Anderson's house and took methamphetamines. Anderson then told investigators that, well, he took a shower, and when he returned to the bedroom, Rebecca Lynn Lambert was dead.
Oh,
Yes.
that's not good.
And so Stephen Joseph Anderson leapt into action. The meth head decided, what can I do? What possible solutions are there? And of course, he's on meth, so he does the most logical thing. He begins to perform a ritual that includes stabbing the woman in the heart with a 5-inch knife, hoping to revive her.
Huh?
Exactly. Yes, while on meth, he decided the best way to help the woman that apparently is deceased is to do some sort of a ritual and then stab her in the heart. Again,
Hold on, that's right out of Pulp Fiction.
it is. But then, again, you were using an adrenaline shot. People actually
Oh.
passed out in the theaters when that happened.
They did?
Yeah, they did several times. Yeah. So, yeah, number of times there. So, but yeah, he decided instead the knife. I mean, again, even I could see the adrenaline shot, but knife? I just, the
guess-
problem solving, not feeling well, knifey go in here. No.
Did it work?
No, not at all.
It did not work.
No. So, in fact, on November 14th, Anderson was observed in the middle of the street holding a knife and a hammer when officers arrived at the scenes, and they told him to drop the knife. He was taken into custody, according to the television station, and then he allegedly admitted to killing Lambert. He was booked into jail, and that's where the other felony count of mutilation of a body and misdemeanor count of failure to report a death kick in. So, yeah, I just look at that and think, again, he looked at that and went, I know the solution. I must stab her. I just seriously.
And I know I'll tell this when we come back because we're running
good.
we're running
Yeah.
long on a break here.
Yeah.
But there is a knife related story I had as a case once as a young prosecutor.
Really?
Yeah,
now
it's
I'm-
not in the heart; it's in the
Oh.
head. But it's
Ooh.
it's interesting.
You have my attention, sir. Well,
Yeah.
that is the end of You Choose the News because we got to hear this knife head story. Today, we are proud to be sponsored by Mr. Boston's. We know the church is the winner and I'm the big loser. Here are the cocktails that you should drink during your New Year's Eve party to show everybody else you're much cooler than they are. Try a smoky martini. Take a cinnamon stick, rub it inside of your glass, then mix your regular martini and add a dash of amaretto and a dash of orange bitters. It actually is very delicious and looks amazing. Also, hack the Venetian spritzer real easily by serving a glass of red wine with a little bit of seltzer and then add olives on a toothpick. Seems weird, but the saltiness will counteract the sweetness inside of the red wine, and everybody's going to ask you what the hell you are doing and how come you drink so much already. Alrighty, back to you, sir.
Billy, once again, thank you for saving some of the best for the last show of 2022. I want to get to a break here. I did not get a chance to do what I thought I was going to be able to do, and that's just because we're having such a good time talking. And that is to update you on the losses month by month as we go through the show. I'll catch you up, though. There's some interesting ones coming up here, and you'll be like, oh, my God, I didn't know that. Oh, I remember that. It's a great trip down memory lane for all the wrong reasons. Listen, it's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler right back with you here on 710 KNUS. As I promised, and I think we'll try to work our way through these as we go to each segment. I told you I would try to finish each segment with a little bit of who we lost. One, just out of respect for it, but two, you kind of take for granted that these people are always going to be there, because when we hear about them, it's always they're frozen in time and they just are ageless. But if we go through who we lost in February of 2022, Ivan Reitman, he is the filmmaker who gave us, wait for it, Animal House and Ghostbusters, among many other movies. P.J. O'Rourke, political satirist, an author of tons of books. If you haven't read or heard PJ, I can't believe he was 74 when he passed away. Ivan Reitman was 75. Sally Kellerman, Hot Lips Houlihan, not from the TV show, but from the 1970 hit MASH. And she was 84 when she passed away, which I can't believe. I'll try to get you through a little bit of the rest of this as we go through. In March, Alad Ladd Jr., he's a producer who greenlit a movie you may have heard of called Star Wars. We'll get to some of these other actors as we go through here, since we're running out of time. As I'm going through this list, preparing it for today, I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. Oh my God. And some of the names won't sound familiar to you, but when I tell you what they did, whether it's in pop culture or government or war or whatever, you'll be like, wow, I can't believe that. Just incredible stuff. The wheel just keeps turning, as you know. Listen, when we come back, and I want to encourage you, by the way, to call in and talk to me about the things for 2022 that you're going to remember the most. Doesn't have to be all negative. It can be positive too, but we'll keep this going throughout the show. 303-696-1971. Check out the YouTube channel. Text us. There are already a billion texts coming in. Keep them pouring in. George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler right back with you here for hour 2 of the last show of 2022, George Show 710 KNUS. This one is as unstructured a show as we're ever going to have, and we generally have a theme or a story or something that we're trying to go for each hour, and I've got some plans here. I've got some ideas. Billy and I have had some story things thrown around, but I really do want to open this up, especially to, and by the way, if you've called before, I'm happy to take your call, but if you've never called before, get this little resolution out of the way right now. Leave this in the rear view mirror in 2022. Pick up the phone and call us at 303-696-1971 and give us your thoughts on what you're going to remember most about 2022. Now, it could be political. I get all that, but there's a ton of other stories. In fact, there are a ton of other stories even locally here. I mean, one of the biggest is that a year ago, we had the Marshall Fire, which was devastating, one of the largest of its kind in the state history. And we're still digging out from that right now. So if you something like that, I'm happy to entertain those kinds of calls just to get a conversation going with someone who maybe up to this point has felt like I'm not the kind of guy that calls into a radio station. And that was true of me, by the way, before I ended up being on the radio. I think I had called in once on a contest, but I was the kind of person that sat there and I'd listen. I'd talk back to the radio. I'd say things out loud that made me sound like a crazy person, but I just never picked up the phone to ever call the host. This is a great opportunity to get that done. So give us a call at 303-696-1971. One of the things that's out there, and I don't know, man, it really resonates with me, is there is a Home Depot founder. He's a co-founder. He's a 93-year-old billionaire named Bernie Marcus. Now, he and his buddy, his partner, Arthur Blank, started with a couple stores in Atlanta in the 1970s, and they grew this thing into an empire, really. And it's Home Depot, and I go to Home Depot all the time. I know there's a Lowe's out there, but I go to Home Depot just because it's closer, honestly. It's not closer by more than a few minutes, but that makes a big difference. And this 93-year-old billionaire has come out and said, socialism has killed Americans' motivation to work. It has just robbed them of the ability to get anything done. And these are some quotes from him. And this is what he told the Financial Times just yesterday. Nobody works. Just give it to me. Send me money. I don't want to work. I'm too lazy. I'm too fat. I'm too stupid. Marcus said about what he perceived as the attitude permeating the country. Nobody gives a damn. Now, he's been a big-time Republican backer, no doubt about that. He says the woke people, the news media, Harvard graduates, MBAs, lawyers, and accountants all get some of the blame for this. He said, I'm worried about capitalism. Capitalism is the basis of Home Depot, and millions of people have earned this success and had this success. But that's why capitalism works. He's called the President Biden, the worst president in the history of this country. He said, and of course, he's a big supporter of Trump and DeSantis, by the way. You should know that. He says, I hope they're going to do the right thing. That's why I give them money. But he has gone on to talk about that we're here at a time and a place where entrepreneurship, capitalism, the American spirit, the work ethic is dying, and it's dying because of this social. And I have to say that resonates with me on so many levels. I think the pandemic did more to accelerate the notion of the I deserve generation more than anything else. And as we head into 2023, and we're facing a looming recession, and you're not supposed to say the word, but I just did, a looming recession. Don't know how long it's going to last, but there's a real sense that the government exists to provide for people. And the only way the government can provide is to take from others. That's it. They don't make money. I know they literally make money, but they don't create wealth. They don't make money. They can only take wealth from others who have earned it or accumulated it and redistribute it. But that's, as we head into 2023, I am horrified at the idea of this. Here's something else he said. The whole idea that a business is set up for social purposes doesn't make sense to me. And that's the new thing, the socially responsible business, and it's got to be woke, and it's got to be environmentally focused and do all this other stuff. That is counter to what we have done as American capitalism forever. And the question is, have all these things added together to create an environment where we are just far more fragile, not just as an economy, but as a people? Do you see it out there? Do you see it in your businesses? I see it. I can tell you, by the way, where I saw it recently, and it was the opposite. You see help wanted signs everywhere around here. You hear stories about people that don't want to work fast food, or if they do, they work for it for a couple minutes. I talk to friends who go through the employment process, the hiring process, and then someone just decides after they get the job, you know what, I'm not coming. There are a lot of people who waste an employer's time by applying for a position and going through the interviews just so they can maintain their freaking unemployment because they don't want to work. We've made unemployment more attractive than a minimum wage job. And some people say, well, then we need to raise minimum wage. That's not the answer. We need to make unemployment less attractive. It's not shameful anymore to be on the government dole. We just look at people as victims, and we encourage people to look at themselves as victims. And so when I was abroad, I think I came back just a little more than a week ago, but a couple of weeks ago when I was abroad, I wasn't staying in the swankiest hotels out there, but I was staying at hotels that offered you the opportunity to buy a breakfast or do the breakfast buffet and all that. And as you know, they're never like $10. It's always more than that. But I was really taken for the whole hotel experience. And I'm talking about like Marriott hotels, nothing, not like 5-star this or that. The number of Europeans that were working this thing, young people that were crushing it, running around, clearing tables, making sure there wasn't a drop of this or that on something else, that the food was this, the coffee was filled, running around doing all this other stuff. And the Europeans love their coffee, man. They're not black coffee people either. It's got to be a cappuccino or a macchiato or an espresso or something with a bunch of vowels at the end other than E's. And these guys work every place I stayed, and I bounced around a couple of countries, and it was like that everywhere. And I thought, my goodness, these look like thankless jobs. I'm like, I just can't picture this at this level. And I've stayed at a ton of hotels this past year across the country, and they're nice and they're good and almost all Marriott. And I've done the breakfast buffet thing there too. Not the same at all. The number of employees, the quality of the service, completely different. How is that possible? And please don't tell me it's because they pay this living wage stuff. It can't just be that. There's got to be something else there. Whatever that work ethic is, the fact that in a much more socialist Europe than there is America, at least at this point, that you can still find people that are out there crushing it for however many hours they get that job, then they run off to school or do whatever. I just don't see it as much here. You go into businesses, oh my gosh, the airline industry too. You look at these poor people getting crushed. Customer service is in the dumpster. There's just a lot going on here that makes me concerned. And I read the quote here from the co-founder of Home Depot, and I think to myself, I think that's what we're all feeling. I think that's what we're all experiencing. A real sense of entitlism, a sense, if that's a word, a real sense of I deserve, I am owed, and I don't want to put forth the effort. I should be paid to exist. We've already started to see the consumer confidence thing take a little bit of a hit. The amount of money that's being spent, savings, of course, during the pandemic have been spent down quite a bit. It's going to be a tough 2023 economically if we can't figure out a way to find our work ethic mojo. And there's just something else. I saw another statistic. Oh man, I'm going to have to go find this thing. And it was, by the way, a stat that was a reference to Donald Trump, who paid 0 federal income tax in 2020, which is crazy. And I get how he does it and he brags about it, but that's crazy. I didn't pay 0 federal income tax ever. But it puts him in a category of something like more than 50. I think it's down a bit from 60%, but something like more than 50% of Americans that aren't paying it. And then, of course, the article quickly says, but they pay sales tax and they pay some property tax. I don't believe that they're paying property tax if they're paying 0 income tax, but they're probably renters and there's nothing wrong with that. But they're not paying that tax. All this, they're still paying that. Like when you have 50% of the population as net takers from government as opposed to net providers, we have a problem. And I think that's why we see some of this work ethic stuff. Give us a call. Are you seeing this? 303-696-1971. These employment stories, these horror stories are ridiculous. But you can call us on just about anything here, man. It's the end of 2022. I'm open. I'm free. At least that's what the internet says. Don, you're on 710. Don, what do you think?
Well, happy end of the year, George, and happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, man.
Yeah, this country is definitely going through some big changes, unprecedented.
How long has it
Because-
been, Don, since you have been a full-time member of the workforce?
How long has it been?
Yeah. I mean, you could be fully employed right now. I don't know the answer. I'm asking.
I've been fully employed and still am forever.
Okay, that's good to know as the backdrop for this. What have you seen in terms of work ethic, and is it generational? Is it situational? I mean, are you seeing this across all ages, or is this something that seems to be more prominent in younger folks?
Well, I haven't worked for anybody in 40 years other than myself. Hiring employees in my field is impossible. Hiring people, period, is quite difficult. I've run ads. I've offered good money. I mean, really decent money, 25, 30 bucks an hour for stuff that, is quite overpaid for the effort, but trying to get some things accomplished without having to do everything myself. There's been a big push for years and years, this European model where you take a month off for holiday and
Yeah,
get
yeah, yeah.
everything
Yeah.
given to you. And, George, it's just such a combination of so many things. And I agree with the gentleman from Home Depot that we have moved into a socialist mindset. And I don't think there's a lot of people that are really even aware of that, because I think there's just an awful lot of ignorance, period, with people compared to what they're used to be. And there's also the polarity with people when it comes to anything political. I mean, you can't hardly have a discussion without you can say something like, well, how many people died on January 6th? Well, you're trying to bring up the politics again. You're a Trump guy. I can't even ask a question without people fighting that. So where has this led us to? I don't know. But I called to ask you about Meatloaf.
Yeah.
You ever seen Meatloaf?
On TV, yeah. I mean, I've never seen him
Have
in
you ever
live
seen
in
him in
concert
person?
or in, no.
Yeah. You know who his writer and composer was?
Nope.
Gentleman who passed away this year, Jim Steinman.
No, I didn't know that.
Jim Steinman did a lot of stuff. Real talented guy. A lot of Broadway stuff. He wrote for people like Barry Manilow, Monty Tyler, Billy Squire, Barbra Streisand, Celine Dion. Meatloaf's performances were kind of like Alice Cooper, quite theatrical. And when Meatloaf was up on stage, that guy gave it his all. And extremely hard driven. I probably saw Meatloaf at least half a dozen times over the course of time. Same way with Alice Cooper. There's just fans and people, but these two are kind of unique and always have been, in my opinion, because they bring their talent. And it was a struggle for Meatloaf till he hooked up with Jimmy Steinman. He wasn't going anywhere in a hurry. Where he got that name Meatloaf, I don't remember. His real name is Michael O'Day. He was out of Texas.
Uh-huh.
But if you never got to see Meatloaf in person, one of his performances, you missed something in life there. But
Well, I'm probably miss a lot. I'm
always
not a huge concert goer.
I'm not anymore. I used to go to tons of stuff, man. Just
Don, for you, if I asked you to give me the biggest story of 2022 that wasn't political, what would you say?
the biggest story of 2022 that wasn't political.
Yeah, that wasn't about Trump or the midterms or any of that stuff.
Gosh, there'd be a number of things. On a national level, a world level, or a local level?
You can pick one. I'm pretty sure for world, it's got to be Ukraine. But I mean, if you wanted to go local, if you wanted to go national, that's great too.
I think on a local level was the change in ownership of the Broncos.
Oh, that's a big one.
Hiring Russell Wilson, because the Broncos had brought so much to the economy, and
that's a good one,
bonded
Don.
to this city for, I mean, I've been around here since 71. Used to be able to go down on open day and try out for the Brauchlers. Did you know that? They'd have a tryout day.
No, that feels
off
very
the
much
street.
like that Philadelphia Eagles movie Invincible about Vince Papaglia.
Could be. But at any rate, I just wanted to wish you a happy New Year.
Hey, Don,
Throw out
thanks,
my
man.
18 cents about meatloaf, and I promise, George, I'm going to ask you so many questions next year.
Please do. I know it's coming.
I always do. You know I love it. So
I know that
you're the man, brother.
That's the way
Best
that you
to
do
and
it.
Your family.
Hey, Don, best to you too, man. Happy New Year. Billy tells us that this is a pretty cool story, Billy. Why don't you just say it, Billy? I don't need to read your words.
Got to put on the equipment. Meatloaf gained his nickname in 7th grade. He was a short kid and he had gained a lot of weight. And so a boy in the class started making fun of him and called him Meatloaf. And he decided when he was going to embark on his theatrical, movie career that he was going to take that insult and turn it into something that was positive to show that boy that, he can stick it.
Yeah,
So,
that's pretty cool
Yeah,
that he made a career out of the insult name.
It's really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could say I did the same thing, but I have not made a career out of the name Jackass. It just hasn't worked out for me that way.
There was that TV show.
Aren't payroll taxes, federal taxes. A couple people chiming in on the Trump thing. My God, the number of people that want to try to figure out a way to go to bat for him and say, no, he's still paying tax. I didn't say he paid 0 taxes. I said he paid 0 income taxes here. And there's this story I linked to. It's from, I can't remember where it is. They paid $0 in income taxes for 2020, according to a report released late Tuesday by the Congressional Joint Committee on Taxation, because he reported a loss of $4.8 million. Now, it doesn't mean he's never paid taxes, folks. It doesn't mean he should be burned at the stake. But for the love of Pete, man, we don't have to defend every single negative factual thing about Donald Trump. My God, man, I'd love to be in a position to pay 0 income tax. Have you, Billy, you ever paid 0 income tax? How did you pull that off?
I was poor and young.
Okay. Okay. So you weren't
22.
a billionaire. You weren't a billionaire.
I was like 22. I made nothing. So I was under the poverty limit.
You know what? I guess if I went back in time and I was having to file because I'd made enough doing part-time work as a teenager that I paid 0. Okay. I guess I could be there, but not as a billionaire and not as a thousandaire or whatever I am right now.
Yeah, oddly enough, and this is the thing that I don't understand. I mean, I understand that the rich people have all the fancy accountants and things to do all the bookkeeping, and we've seen how well that turns out sometimes. But as we know that, just to be, make sure we set the table properly, that recently both a business and an accounting firm tied to DJT have been found to be guilty of fraud. So, but for me, when I was younger, as my income has increased, the check I'm writing to the feds has increased as well. I've never gotten to a point where I start making a lot of money and then my tax bill goes down.
Never.
That is
I
not
can't
something
figure
that has happened. I want to know how the billionaires do that.
I don't know.
That's
I don't
silly.
make enough to put it someplace where it can't be taxed or where I can write off a bunch of losses. And again, hats off to those people who can exploit the legal loopholes that are in there. That's fine. I'm not saying he did anything wrong, but let's just be candid about the facts. It looks like his tax returns are being sifted through and analyzed, and dude paid 0 income tax in 2020. My guess is nobody else out there listening to the show paid 0. Maybe they did. Maybe they'll text in or call in at 303-696-1971 and let us know. I want to do this, though. I was telling you about the folks that we lost, and it's only because it's a great vehicle to have a conversation about different things, too. I told you about Alan Ladd, who greenlit Star Wars. How about this name? Do you recognize this name, Billy? Emilio Delgado. He was Luis on Sesame Street. I grew up learning to, if you ask my dad, he will tell you I learned to read watching Sesame Street. I remember Luis. William Hurt, of course, famed for broadcast news, Body Heat, Big Chill. That dude was 71. He was also the, I can't remember his name.
Here's a little William Hurt.
Oh, let's do it.
Chill. He's interviewing himself. The audio is very low. Yeah, that's it. Audio is very low, so
that is him.
YouTube.
He was also, and I can't remember the evil general's name from all the Marvel movies that are out there. Don Young, No, not an artist of any kind. Longest serving member of the House of Representatives ever in American history out of Alaska. Dude was elected in 1973 and served until he passed away this past March. Madeleine Albright, of course, the former Secretary of State, first female Secretary of State. She passed away at 84. Taylor Hawkins, if you don't know the name, I know Billy does. He was the drummer for Foo Fighters, passed away at the very early age of 50 years old. And then, of course, we get into April with, and I don't know that we have any sound for this, but if I tell you the name Estelle Harris, who passed away at 93, you're going to say, who in the world is Estelle Harris? She was George Costanza's mother on Seinfeld. And I didn't realize this, the voice of Mrs. Potato Head in the Toy Story franchise, passed away at 93 in this past April. Gilbert Gottfried, 67 years old. That dude, again, incredibly unique, had that voice that and I can't do it justice, but he was also the voice of, I can't remember the name of the bird from Aladdin and a bunch of these other things. Liz Sheridan, 93, again, a double whammy for Seinfeld. She played Jerry Seinfeld's mom on the sitcom. She passed away at 93 as well. Orrin Hatch, an incredibly long-serving, super influential senator, passed away at 88 out of Utah. And then wrapping up April, Naomi Judd, 76 years old. You remember the Judds, big country stars from the 90s. If they were bigger in other decades, forgive me, that's not when I knew them. Naomi Judd passed away at 76, and it says here she took her own life with her said. We'll get into May and some of these other ones when we come back. And again, the phone lines are starting to fill up. The lines are all open for you, really, just for you on this last show of 2022. It's George Brauchler on The George Show. You're listening to 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Man, I wish I could let this play. Chicky. I wonder, are we going to get there? Oh, come on. Bumper people who make the bumper music. It's not Billy. It's just the way the system is set up. George Brauchler with you here on The George Show. It's not that tricky. You just pick up the phone and you dial these little digits, 303-696-1971, and you get to join in with folks like Joe from Arvada. Joe, happy last day for us of 2022. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you this morning?
Living the dream.
There you go. I just wanted to make a comment on what you mentioned about Mr. Trump's taxes and paying zero.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's pretty misleading, and I'll tell you why. At one point, he earned or lost money, and he paid the piper at some point, like we all do. And it just so happens that he hit a year where he had enough offsets. And that happens to a lot of people. So at some point in time, he paid a lot of money and he lost a lot of money in order to be at zero. That's just the way it works. And taking snapshots is just misleading, and it's not fair.
Why isn't it fair? It's not a fact?
Well, because it's a fact. But if you talk about the year before or the next year,
he paid
a tremendous amount of tax.
2 years before, he paid approximately $1.1 million in federal taxes.
Right.
Yeah, I get that. Right. For a billionaire, that still seems pretty light. I mean, you can do the math. $1 billion versus 1.1. That's about 1%. My guess is, and I don't know this, Joe, my guess is you pay more than that in taxes each year as a percentage.
It depends on the year. No, it depends on the year.
When's the last time you had a year where you paid zero federal income tax?
2 or 3 years ago. Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. I've never had such a year. I have always paid taxes.
Well, it's because when you take huge losses on money that you've earned and put in, and now it's gone, there are years where those losses just simply catch up, and you don't have the income to offset the losses, and you pay zero. That's just how it works. And so taking snapshots, you got to look at it over a period of 10 or 20 years and say, here's what you paid to the government over that period of time, not that 1 or 2 years. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying it's just misleading.
I appreciate you saying, listen, there needs to be a broader perspective. I don't think it's misleading. I don't think a single fact like that can be misleading. And of course, I haven't come out and said this dude's figured out a way to beat the system every single year, because clearly he's paid taxes in other years. But for 2020, it is just a fact. He and Melania paid zero federal income tax. And it's remarkable to me because I've never been in that situation other than what Billy and I described as our early years, doing that part-time entry-level work when you're still a student or it's the summer or something. And then if you look at this article that reports on it, they're like almost everybody else that fits into that category, and Joe, you're going to be accepted, are folks that are either retirees or they make so little income that they don't qualify for it and stuff like that. So it's an interesting fact. I don't know folks like that. What I would much rather see, Joe, and I don't want to turn this into a broader discussion of all tax policies, I would rather see a flat tax. I'm making up a number here, but 7%, and there are no deductions or exceptions, period. Just 7%. Don't care how you made the money. Don't care where the money came from. It's just going to be 7%, whether you make $10,000, $100,000, or $100 trillion. That, to me, would end this debate right now.
I'm right with you. I am 100% with you. I just want to make another point that remember Congress passed what they call bonus depreciation years ago.
Yeah.
And so they let you buy a piece of equipment or let you buy something, take 100% depreciation. Well, if you don't have the income to offset that depreciation, you're going to pay zero. It's just the way it is. Congress set it up like that. And you're going to pay the piper someday, though, because you'll have to recapture that someday and pay a lot of money. It just might not be in the year that you're selecting.
I get it, man. And hey, can I ask you a question? Biggest movie
Sure.
of the biggest movies of the year. Did you go see any?
Oh yeah.
What did you go see? What'd you like the most?
I have to say Top Gun Maverick. That just
Number one movie of the year.
Yeah, it makes you sit and watch, right? You don't want to go get popcorn. You want to watch.
I think at some point, man, and maybe it's already happened, folks are going to look back on this year as, movies got crushed by the pandemic because it's that shared experience in an enclosed space. And I think Tom Cruise may have saved a bit of Hollywood, man. I mean, but for that guy getting seats back in butts in the seats. And if you'll remember the story too, and I read this somewhere, that Hollywood or whoever, the Paramount or whoever it was that was putting it out, was like, no, we just want to go right to streaming. And he said, hell no, we're going to put this in the theaters. Right. And you and I went and saw it. I've seen it twice in the theaters because the family couldn't all see it at one time. I'm like, I'll go back. $718 million. It has grown.
And how about that little promo at the beginning too? Very unusual, right? Where he sits down and says, I made this for you. I hope you enjoy it. That was interesting.
It was pretty cool. This dude may be the last big Hollywood movie star that's out there. I don't know. But did you ever see Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Jurassic World, any of the other?
Oh, yeah.
You did?
All those. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. With the grandkids, absolutely.
Yeah. I love going to the movies. It is becoming one of those things that I just look forward to. There isn't a lot of other things I can get all the kids interested in doing at the same time because they all have such diverse interests and things. I don't know. It's hard. Yeah. Like if I said, hey, let's all go see the Broncos game, Trey says absolutely not. Amanda might if she were in town. Jeff would be like, are we going to eat lunch there? Because he wants the food. And then Graham, of course, would be all in. But a movie, just about everybody's like, oh, hell yeah, we'll go to a movie. I mean, it's kind of the last little thing that we get to do.
The great escape, right?
Boom. Hey, thanks for the call, Joe. I appreciate it. Happy New Year, my man. 303-696-1971. Joe's line is open. We're going to go to Johnny Johnson. Johnny, you are on air. What do you think, sir?
Dave Chappelle.
Heard of him.
When he was on SNL, he described Trump in the 2015 debate with Hillary Clinton, and he said, it's rigged. And he says, how I know it's rigged, and he's talking about his taxes, is because the same thing he did to do his taxes, the accountants, Hillary Clinton and Obama and her donors were using when they did their taxes. And the only reason it won't be changed is because it's helping her donors.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, no, listen,
and I love the way
you are referencing, I wish I had the sound queued up for your call, Johnny, because you are right. There is a really funny but poignant part of his stand-up, and I can't remember which one it was on Netflix, where he does say exactly that. Of course, he says it in a much funnier Dave Chappelle way, but comes right out and says it. He goes, I've never seen a guy like this come out, and he just says it the way it is. He goes, I know the system's rigged because I'm the one that benefits from exploiting it, and so are you. Yeah. He said the difference is I'm going to tell you I do it, and and all this other. You're right, man. It was a pretty big deal. Now he's no Trump fan. But he was like, I could tell you in that debate, that's when I knew Trump was going to win, right there.
Yeah, I like, it's very little I can stand from the left when I listen to the radio and stuff like that. But Dave Chappelle, he'll break it down in such a way where it's palatable, and I can listen to that stuff. Now, as far as like the biggest story of the year, I watched this documentary on Netflix and how, not the founder, but the people that bought Nestle started making baby formula, and they got people in Congress to say that this is better than natural milk, and therefore we had this company making milk for baby formulas, and when it shut down, we didn't have any other choice but to go outside the country. And I'm thinking like, this is ridiculous. This is America. But we have to go outside of America to get baby formula.
Yeah, that's crazy.
For mothers.
Yeah, that's crazy. Johnny, let me ask you, would you be supportive? And some texters have texted in. One of them said we should just do a national sales tax and abolish the IRS. That or a flat tax? What are your thoughts?
Flat tax. I totally agree. And then that's going to, destroy a lot of IRS jobs because it'll be so simple. But a government is not willing to be simple because they think they can get more money by doing this and this. And they're, I don't know if they're just so stupid because we look at this guy from New York, Santos, are just a bunch of liars.
Man, that guy, I watched last night the Tulsi Gabbard interview with him on Tucker, and she did a pretty strong job, man.
Yes.
Punching him about the face and neck, and not even very hard. It wasn't like she was super aggressive. She just asked very direct, pointed questions. This guy's a clown, and he's not very bright.
And he's telling us that we're too stupid to understand why the reason he had to lie. My mother taught me at the age of 9 how not to lie, and it wouldn't be legal today to do what she did.
There's a story, Johnny, out there that was about a local, and I think it was called the North Shore something, but there was a local newspaper that actually broke a lot of this story before the New York Times back in September, October, before the election, but it never got picked up. And the article was really a condemnation of sort of the changing nature of media and how local papers are dying on the vine and all this. But in the process of it, it talked about how they had interviews with people. Like there was a builder, a construction guy out there that Santos was trying to woo. And he drove around with him to show him mansions he claimed that he owned. And every time the guy said, hey, can we go in and take a look at that one? That looks really great. He'd say, no, there's tenants in there. We can't go in there. And he would just drive by and point at houses and say, oh, that's one of mine right there. That's one of mine right there.
Oh,
I mean, this dude is pathologic.
Okay. Yeah, you got to tell me, George, because I can't see. Is it his charisma? Is it his facial looks? I'm kind of, because I know people like that, and I'm kind of figuring out what is it about them that people say, I believe you. Okay.
I think part of the problem for us as people is we want to trust our fellow man, right? Like you don't want to grow up. You know, people like this, the people that look at every other person as someone who's trying to screw them. They just seem dour and sour and down and negative. You want to trust your fellow man. You want to believe your fellow man. And so when somebody comes to you and looks you dead in the eye and says something in an arguably persuasive but incredibly confident way, your gut reaction tends to be, I'll believe you. And it's only later as your brain starts processing this stuff. And I think the other thing, there was a caller yesterday, you may have heard this, Johnny, who said, I think part of this too, where the Republicans were so excited to have a candidate that checked a whole bunch of boxes. You know, oh, gay guy, boom. Ethnic sounding name with an ethnic background, boom. Successful businessman, boom. And I think it's almost like you want to see him to be this great person or this great candidate. And then after the fact, it's like, oh, my sweet mother of goodness. And then somebody texted in earlier in the show and said, there was I can't remember who it was that came out and said, I don't know why we're being so hard on this guy. He's just trans truth.
Transfluent. Okay.
That's exactly what it is. Hey, Johnny, man, have a happy new year, would you?
Hey, back in the USA. Happy to be back here.
Happy to have you
from
here.
Amsterdam. And God bless you guys in the new year.
Hopefully you didn't run into the blue lights or anything like that based on our last
we had a conversation about that. So
I'll talk with you in 2023.
All right. God bless.
Yeah. God bless you, man. Thanks. Hey, listen, real quick, I'll cut away to a couple of these other things before I go into a break. This is just for May, who we lost this past year. I just love flashing back in time with this. Mickey Gilley probably had his heyday during the 80s. Country singer. If you'll remember, he was in Urban Cowboy. That was pretty awesome. Fred Ward. This one hits hard because I grew up a big Fred Ward fan. I wish he'd been a much bigger star. But if you remember, he played Gus Grissom in The Right Stuff. He was in the Tremors, at least I think the first couple Tremors movies. He was also in a movie called Remo Williams that I loved, and Time Rider. It's a sleeper movie, but it has Peter Coyote in it as well as the bad guy. It's about this motorcycle dirt bike riding guy who somehow goes back in time to the old West. It was a fantastic movie if you haven't seen it, but we lost Fred Ward. He was 79. Bob Lanier, the great NBA star, passed away at 73. Vangelis. I wish I could have had that music queued up too, Billy. I wish I'd have told you that, but you remember like dun 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 from Chariots of Fire. He also, I think, did the music for Blade Runner. Also incredible. And then Ray Liotta, only 67. Goodfellas, Field of Dreams. He played, I think, Shoeless Joe from the band White Sox. He was, no, he didn't. Yeah, he did. He played Shoeless Joe in that. He's been in a ton of movies. Man, just a lot of people that we lost that, man, I don't know. You just take it for granted that they're frozen in time based on the last time you thought about them or their greatness. But the wheel just keeps turning, folks. When we come back, we'll continue to get your calls, Jim and everybody else on hold at 303-696-1971. If you've never called into the show, do it on the last day of 2022 for us. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler right back with you here, 710 KNUS. Going to honor our callers here on the last show of 2022. Jim, you're on the George Show. What do you think, sir?
Good morning, George. Hey, I just wanted to acknowledge the fair tax,
Sure.
or the flat tax. I used to be a member of a group called Citizens for an Alternate or for a Fair Tax.
Yeah.
It was fascinating because it eliminated the IRS, and basically you paid taxes on milk. And even though you may have been a poor person, you filed a form and you could get a refund from the Treasury, not the IRS, because the IRS was eliminated and that saved the taxpayer billions of dollars.
Who processes that form?
So it starts with the grocer. The grocer pays the state of Colorado Treasury, and the Colorado Treasury pays the U.S. Treasury. So there's taxes on everything. And at the time, this back in the 90s, the mid-90s, they calculated the tax to replace the current income the federal government needed to operate. I think it was 13.5% would be the tax.
So if you had a 13.5% flat tax, and are you talking about you would still have an income level below which people would be eliminated and they would not have to pay any tax?
So they could file a form, and, you know, for a single person, it was one thing. For a married couple, it was another. For married with children, it kept moving up. And so.
And who keeps track of it?
That part, I'll be honest, I don't remember. I don't know if it was the U.S. Treasury or how that particular part of it was handled. So that people living below poverty could, you know, at least break even or get some sort of a refund.
What do you think about, first off, I like the idea of a flat tax, but and you've talked about this a little bit, what do you think about the idea of, instead of going to a value-added tax or just a sales tax?
Hadn't given it much thought until you just asked the question.
Because you know what the Dems want to do is push the idea of a value-added tax, which if it were a standalone tax, I might be able to get behind that, but they want to do it in addition to a progressive tax system. And it's like, no. I'm not interested in you finding another vehicle to get more of our hard-earned money. But if it were a replacement for income tax, that's another way you might eliminate the IRS, or at least huge chunks of it. And I can tell you this, we won't need to be hiring 87,000 of them to do anything if we went to that. But I appreciate where your head is. And that
George,
yeah, go ahead.
I've got one thing for you and for your listeners. You can go to fairtax.org. It's just a nonprofit, and go to their frequently asked questions sections. And I'm just reviewing it as I'm talking to you, because I haven't thought of this subject in the last 5 or 10 years. And it pretty much mirrors what I was being educated on back in the 90s with regards to a sales tax.
Fairtax.org.
Yes, sir.
We'll check it out. Jim, thank you for the phone call. Happy New Year to you. Jim's line is open, 303-696-1971. And listen, Bob and Dave and the others that are calling in right now, if I take you right now, I cheat you out of a full opportunity to say what you want to say. So if you stick around, I promise over the top of the hour, and you know I'm good for my word, I will take you first thing when we come back after the top of the hour. We just have, I really have about a minute left before the music plays, and I just hate to cheat anybody out of their time to talk. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to this list again of folks that we've lost, only because it's just fascinating to me. If I tell you in June we lost Ann Turner Cook at 95, you'd say, I have no idea who that is. And I would tell you she was the original Gerber baby face on all. Who has seen any face more than that? Jim Seals, 80 years old, from Seals and Crofts. Remember that? If I had told Billy in advance I was going to do this. Mark Shields, PBS NewsHour. He was also a political commentator. I kind of became of age politically with Shields and some of the other folks that were out there. Clela Rorax, I'm not saying that name correctly, 78 years old, former county clerk who in 1975 in Colorado was the very first public official to issue a same-sex marriage license. The Goose, Tony Siragusa. He was only 55, Billy, from the Baltimore Ravens. He's gone. And the last one I'll leave you with, Herschel W. Woody Williams, 98. He is the last remaining Medal of Honor recipient from World War II for his efforts in the Battle of Iwo Jima. He passed away last June. When we come back, it's going to be Bob, Dave, and you. Texts, calls, the whole kit and caboodle on this last show of 2022. George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. Boom. Right back here for the back half of the last show of 2022. It's me, George Brauchler, on The George Show. You're listening to 710 KNUS. We've got callers on the line and texts coming in. I'm happy to talk to you today about just about anything you want to about 2022 or the issues that we've discussed so far. And I'll get into the recap of the tax one here. But, if there was a big event of 2022, and it doesn't have to be political. In fact, it'd be better if it wasn't. I think the midterms are the story of politics for 2022. But love to talk with you about that. And we have a line open, 303-696-1971. The other ones are full, and we're going to start to get to those right now. Bob, you're on 710. Bob, what do you think?
Good morning, George. I think that flat tax, that deserves some discussion. For example, let's flat tax Social Security tax. Instead of limiting it to the first 140,000, let's flat tax it all the way. So if you make $1 billion, you pay that Social Security tax on $1 billion.
That's interesting. And you think that is the right answer because what?
Well, I think if you're going to start messing with the income tax, the federal income tax and state income taxes and deductions for state this and DUDA for that, let's get serious. Let's talk about some flat taxing. We'll stop messing around the edges. You got Medicare, Social Security. Those aren't flat tax. You got your 401ks, your IRAs, your stock market stuff, your depreciation on your rental properties, your depreciation on your equipment on your company.
Your Social Security.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. Your Social Security is indexed to your how much you make, and then you're capped out at what is it? Is it 140 or something?
Last time I looked, I don't read a whole lot. In fact, I don't even look at the pictures anymore.
Listen, I don't mind going down that road. I'd have that discussion. I mean, the idea that every single person knows from the moment they wake up on January the 1st until they go to bed on the December the 31st, they know what percentage tax they're going to pay. They can kind of predict based on what they bring in the year.
Yeah.
I love that idea. And I'm okay with thinking about that for Social Security, although I wonder if that would help solve this whole underfunded thing too for Social Security. I mean, we've got to keep this thing going.
Well, it always depends on the details. What is that flat rate?
Yeah. And also how we're going to define income. We got to define income broadly enough to capture a bunch of things that right now escape it, right?
Yeah. And people think, we'll do away with the IRS, right? Then you won't collect a penny of tax from anybody anywhere.
I don't think we can fully do away with the IRS, but I do think we could probably reduce down quite a bit the size of the IRS because the complexity of the taxes, and frankly, it would be, if you don't have the deductions, if you take away all that stuff, then man, all the money just gets automatically sent out of the paychecks. If you're
no more qualified capital gains and no more qualified dividends.
Yeah, think about that. Yeah, think about that. How low could we make that flat tax if we got rid of all of those deductions, all those loopholes? And wouldn't we, if we did that, Bob, wouldn't we be really living out Adam Smith's, the invisible hand kind of thing of the economy there?
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't matter then if you're married or separately or
That's right.
joint or
That's right.
single or it wouldn't matter if you're blind. It wouldn't matter
That's right.
if you've got children. It would not matter.
It would not matter. And in part for those folks that are like, well, shouldn't we be promoting that? No, the idea of freedom and liberty is such that the government shouldn't be in the business of trying to change and encourage societal decisions and other things, even at the individual basis through tax manipulation. That's what I think. I mean, maybe even charities. I don't know if there's anything you carve out, because once you start carving out one thing, everyone's going to have an excuse for something else. It's interesting. Would you prefer that,
no more
Bob?
corporations based in the Cayman Islands?
Maybe. You know what? Maybe that's true. Would you prefer that over some sort of a VAT tax, some kind of a sales tax instead?
Well, that's another way to do it. But, then we'll get rid of this and we'll get rid of that. Yeah, you kind of need to be careful what you ask for because you might get it.
Listen, I'm down with it. I don't think there's any chance that Congress can pull that off. I mean, my God, they refuse to tackle immigration. They've mucked up health care. I'm pretty sure they're not going to simplify the tax code for us.
Well, what they did do in 2017 was they gave another 3% tax cut to the billionaires. It's getting closer to that flat tax every year. So, we got part of what they're asking for. Let's flat tax. Sure.
I don't
let's
mind
talk-
having the
let's talk some
conversation.
turkey here, these guys.
I'd love to get to it. Hey, Bob, have a happy new year, man. Talk to you in
Thank you.
2023.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Hey, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Bob's line is open 303-696-1971. Going to Dave. Dave, you're on 710. What do you think?
Good morning, George. Love your show.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, the taxes. I think there's been some misconceptions going around a little bit,
Tell me
perhaps
about
on
it.
your part, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you pay taxes on the income, and for big guys like Trump,
Yeah.
pick on Elon Musk too. Their income is a little bit peculiar. It's not a salary man like me. They have different expenses that get to deduct, and they got a bunch of money coming in off of dividends or whatever it is. But if they don't take income like Musk did a couple of years ago, then they don't pay taxes. And yet they still have $1 billion worth of net worth behind them. You don't pay $1 billion, or you don't pay taxes on the $1 billion. You pay the taxes on your net income.
No, I get that part of it. The net part is important. So it's not that he didn't draw a salary or have an income. It's that, at least according to this article, it's that he was able to offset it with about $5 million in, I think it's losses. It could be deductions. I don't know that it matters.
Little of both, probably a whole bunch of everything. It's complicated, right? We've talked about the complication, and so there's a million things they can pick from. They don't apply to me. I'm a salary man. I get the home deduction, the standard exemptions, the kids. I'm done.
What do you think about the idea of us moving to something that is, I don't know, just simpler? Whether it's a VAT tax, a flat tax, or do you like the system the way it is?
Well, the system's too complicated to be happy with it, isn't it? VAT, here's a problem with the VAT. A friend of mine told me once, it hides the cost of the tax.
Yeah.
That's a worry.
Yeah, well, man, thanks for the phone call. Let's have a happy new year. Talk to you soon, Dave. Thank you. Hey, George Brauchler with the George Show, 710 KNUS. Going to take a moment here. We have a special, really uninvited, unsolicited guest who's come into the studio here bearing donuts. Is this? This could be for the last show of the year. Hold on, Dunkin' Donuts. They have the special holiday motif on them. Let's see the inside. Let's see what's going on inside there, Mark. He's going to pop it open. I mean, police no donuts. Oh, you bastard, Corey. There's no chance. I guess this is my pre-resolution donut that I'm going to have. Sit down. Say something real quickly here to us, man, if you've been listening. Corey Nelson, friend of the show, friend of mine for a long time, also long-time prosecutor up there in the Garden Spot. That is, of course, Denver. Corey, how are you doing?
Good morning. I wanted to come wish you happy tidings for the season, and
thanks for doing that.
You and Billy were so nice to me earlier this year that I wanted to spread some love and joy.
Buddy, that is just so thoughtful, and it makes me feel guilty that I'm not as thoughtful as you. You are just an incredibly thoughtful person. Sometimes you just show up on the doorstep with a big tin of popcorn. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, that's just, it's, I'm from Nebraska. So it's the thing we do is, I was raised to be that way as far as with my friends. And so you're my friends. So I also brought you your Christmas gift.
Oh, what?
You can open this on air because I think it's appropriate.
What in the world? If this vibrates, it's going to be
awkward. No.
Okay.
This is definitely a rare item. You can't get anywhere now.
Wait a minute. It is holy smokes. It's where did you get this?
I have connections.
This is a collectible NFL action figure. I'm going to show you for the YouTube folks. You get to see this thing. It is Deion Sanders.
That's right.
Hall of Fame.
Right. And so I know you're so excited about the CU Bus potential future.
Buddy, I am, of course.
And I was hoping you guys, I was the guy who said you should get some shelves back here behind you for your lids and bobbleheads and
we
stuff.
Should get something to put up.
It's really
there.
Boring. I watch you guys all the time on YouTube every morning, and all my friends should too. And
Mark, you need to hear this. Mark, who's got the donuts now, you need to hear this. There are suggestions on what we can do to pretty up the back area here. Mark's in the studio right now. I had suggested, I like the idea of having a place to put the little things. Exactly. The other thing I had talked to Mark about was a couple fold. One was, could we do some kind of, I wanted to live stream the DIA baggage claim, just for the last couple of days. It turns out it doesn't exist.
Well, but you can picture all the thieves going out. That's what I've been thinking about. All the people that are ripping off the bags.
How many people are just parking and grabbing bags?
Because they used to be great, stealing all the cars out there, but now it's
they can steal a car and bags for that matter.
Exactly. So,
and then I thought, could we get still pictures of this or that? And then Mark had to bring up something in the law called copyright. I don't know if that exists anymore. It sounds like it's very an antiquated idea. but that's a problem too. So then the last idea I had in the last break was I want to body cam me for like a whole day. And really,
yeah, no one wants to watch that. No, I'm going to speak on behalf of your family and specifically Amanda. It's like, who's grimacing? She's listening to this.
In Singapore. She's not going to care.
I thought she was going to Morocco. Whatever happened to...
That's the next semester after that. So it's Singapore in the spring. So it's Springapore. And then it's we got to figure out some place over the summer. And then she's going to go to Morocco in the fall. Randy Corcoran has wandered into, is it to get a donut or leave a donut, Randy? Is it
donuts?
Yeah. There's Dunkin' Donuts right in it autographed there. Yeah.
I brought some. So anyway, your task,
this is brilliant here.
Is to get him in studio and get it autographed.
You think there's a chance in hell I'm going to get prime time in this studio?
Why not?
We're not even a sports show.
So what? He's got to reach out to the community, right? This community.
I'll reach out. I have no formal connection to see you other than I'm a two-time buff.
But it's not necessarily who you know, but who you know and what they know, right? So it's
I've got to find someone. You know, I used to know one of the regents. Her name was Heidi Ganal.
Right. So anyway, your goal is to get him in studio and get that autograph.
That will make this thing, I think, priceless, or at least worth tens of dollars.
You can't get those anymore. So
how did you come up with one that you can't get anymore?
I know a guy.
But that's it. It was his name Deion Sanders, because that would have been helpful.
I am a Dallas Cowboy hater, because the first football game I ever went to was the Christmas Day of 1970 in Bloomington, Minnesota. Their Minnesota Stadium. Minnesota Vikings versus Dallas Cowboys.
Frank Tarkenton era.
Yeah, exactly. And it was freaking cold. I mean, just
shocking.
Yes. And Efrain Herrera, barefoot kicker, kicked a 55-yard field goal to win the game in the last second. And I became a Dallas Cowboy hater. My dad became a Dallas Cowboy lover.
And you're estranged.
So that was my first football game I ever went to. So.
Corey Nelson, you have just made my day right here. This is a wonderful Christmas gift. If you can't see that, that is a perfectly conditioned. I don't even see fingerprints or DNA on that at all. That is Deion Sanders. Cowboys 95-99. Of course, Hall of Famer, and now the head coach for our beloved.
I know you're excited about this whole thing, and I wish them well. I would, even though I'm raised in Nebraska, I still wish, the CU program to be resurrected, and wish them well.
I wish them well as well. Now, listen, you're in here. Let me just do a couple things while you're sitting there. One, I got to tell you about Gay Ribble from Ribble Group. Now, not so much you, Corey, because you're in your dream home already, but for folks that are out there wondering if 2023 is the year that they buy or sell or both their home, the answer is, I don't know, but you know who does? Gay Ribble with Empower Home Team of Keller Williams Realty. Very easy to remember number, because I say it all the time, 833-301-SOLD. It ends in sold. That tells you something. 833-301-SOLD. Of course, you go to the website, gayhasthebuyers.com. Gay is G-A-Y-E, hasthebuyers.com. In fact, I was thinking of calling her and seeing if I can't get her in 2023 to do a little bit of an interview with us and just talk us through what the expectations are for this market, because interest rates, they're about double or more of what they were at the beginning of this year, which is cray-cray. And that might scare you off. It shouldn't, because the other thing that's happened is those property values have either stalled or gone down a little bit. Now, that's bad news for homeowners that have houses where you just want to keep seeing it appreciate. But it could be good news for you if you have to move or you want to move. So I would call Gay. And here's the other reason why. She will guarantee to sell your home in the time and the price that you guys can agree to. And if not, and she'll put it in writing, by the way, she'll make it up with cash and buy that house. I mean, who does that? Who does things like that in real? Nobody backs it up with a guarantee like that. So check out Gay Ribble at gayhasthebuyers.com or 833-301-SOLD. Now, Corey, I'm not cutting away yet. I want to ask you a couple different questions.
Sure.
One, you and Kim and the family, big moviegoers?
Yeah, I am ever since Star Wars. I was a kid.
Biggest movie for you in 2022?
Definitely Top Gun.
Top Gun Maverick has to be.
I just saw Avatar. Beautiful movie. Just too many plot points I just couldn't get into.
I went and saw Avatar as well with the boys.
Beautiful movie. Beautiful visually.
It was.
Just
an incredible movie. I thought it was good. Admittedly, I took a couple cat naps in there.
A couple
5-minute cat naps.
The storyline just had some problems with the
the problem for us was Grandpappy here, and I'm not a grandpa. Although both my brother and my sister, who are younger than I am, they're both grandparents. We went to the 8:30 showing, and that's a 3-hour movie after the previews, which are like 25 minutes of previews.
It was long.
So, I mean, I'm laying there and I'm like, this is going to be so exciting. And I see Avatar Way of Water and I see the first blue person pop up on the screen. And the next thing I know, it's action. You know what I mean? It's
it's
all the time. But so Maverick for me was a big risk too, because I went to go see this thing thinking outside of Godfather 2 and maybe Wrath of Khan and Superman 2, rarely, and Empire Strikes Back, rarely does the sequel come even close to the original.
It's true.
But it was awesome. I mean, as a standalone movie, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was that. The transfer over of the conflict was interesting because before, if you remember the original movie, it was because the sky people wanted to get this mineral called unobtainium, right, from the ground.
Weird name.
Now they all of a sudden they want to get what really is,
I think it's vibranium.
Well, they want to get this precious oil from the whales.
Yeah,
and I couldn't get the transfer.
Some little bit that they pull out of their brain or their soul or something. But and so that, I mean, I think it's good. They're clearly setting us up for the remainder of the Harry Potter series or whatever.
It's got they set up for number 3 because the conflict wasn't resolved.
No, it wasn't. And I don't want to be a spoiler for this, but
I'm sorry.
But the Maverick one too, also a big risk for me. The boys loved the original Top Gun. Nobody loved it more than Graham did. But to go to that one too, I thought, man, please be good. Please be good, because don't ruin it.
It was really, I've been a long time since I've been to a movie where people actually applauded at the end.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was really cool. It was
any of the other big movies. Those are two of the big obvious ones.
Oh boy.
I wasn't super impressed with Jurassic World Dominion. Thought that was going to be better.
No.
And that was kind of a crossover one. Thor, Love and Thunder. I'm a big fan of the Thor series, but
yeah, missed that one. Didn't go to see that one.
Oh my gosh, Spider-Man No Way Home. I didn't know that was this year. Black Adam was number 11.
Haven't seen it yet.
It was it's on, I think, streaming now. It was okay. It wasn't super awesome.
I want to see Spielberg's movie on
the biopic kind of
I want to see. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to watch it streaming now. I'm going to watch it this weekend.
Yeah. I think I want to see that too. For you, before we cut away for a break and I cut you loose, biggest story of the year, not politics.
Oh, Ukraine.
I
love listening to your friend and the live broadcasts.
Oh yeah,
they have from her. Just absolutely.
Paulina, yeah,
Paulina. Love listening to her. So I appreciate that. In fact, you got that live interview process.
You know what she does for us on the radio, and I'll get the local one here that I really want to move to, Mark, in 2023 is she sounds so crystal clear compared to people that are calling from a block away because we have her on the WhatsApp.
Right. Oh, okay.
And if we can figure out a way to get folks in on WhatsApp, Zoom, Signal, whatever else is out there, and put them up on, because right now you're on camera. I didn't know if you know that you were just consented to be on camera, and do the split screen thing. I just think that makes for better TV/radio.
Yeah, absolutely. But non-political story,
local. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure how political it is. Kim Kardashian. That's she's paying attention to Colorado. What's happening?
Not just paying attention, but apparently weighing in and influencing our almost billionaire governor when it comes to criminal justice issues.
Yeah, and having worked in traffic court, and traffic safety is a real important thing to me. Yeah. Seeing that case go forward and absolutely undermined and torpedoed. And, by the governor and Kim Kardashian.
The couple of the things that's
kind of political, but
for folks that don't remember, there was the guy's name, Madero, I think was his last name. He was the truck driver who came up from Texas and plowed his semi with the brakes burned out coming down I-70 and killed 4 people and burned up another 6. And he ended up going to trial, which foolish. I don't know what the plea bargain on the table was, but foolish to go to trial. The DA out there goes to trial knowing the mandatory minimum sentence. There's no guesswork involved. Right. And sure enough, dude gets convicted and gets sentenced to what exactly has to happen, which is 110 years in the Department of Corrections. And for folks not in the game, you've heard me bitch about this before. Guy would be parole eligible in probably about 50-ish. Now, I know you're like, sweet mother of God, that's 50. Remember, he killed 4 people and burned up 6 others.
It's not funny. It's
not at all. I mean, this is a big crime. Yeah. So enter Kim Kardashian. To this day, Governor Polis has done the non-admission of dodging the question every time it's asked, refuses to answer core requests asking when it happened, but Kim says it did. And so he then reduced the sentence to an unbelievable 10 years saying that was more in line with similar cases. Spoiler alert, there are no similar cases.
I don't know. It's like he and our attorney general have no experience, have no knowledge,
no clue,
These guys
no idea,
no clue whatsoever. And I've actually prosecuted violations of the federal motor carrier safety violation, of regulation. I've actually got on coveralls, crawling these trucks at a truck stop in an inspection station to see what it takes to actually adjust brakes. It's super simple. So any trucker out there that doesn't have control over their brakes, that sort of stuff, absolutely recklessness, pure.
Well, this guy clearly not.
So
and again, the company that put him behind the wheel, they should be on the hook criminally and civilly too. But the idea that this guy is now going to be parole eligible at about 5 years after having killed 4 Coloradans and burning up 6 others, that is an injustice, man. That is a big story. You're right. Kim's rolling that big story.
I always think about that one, and so local. I just think obviously the red wave that didn't happen, and our loss in Highlands Ranch. My friend Kurt Huffman, lost out to.
By the way, that's another big story. A little political, but first Democrat I think ever. In Douglas County elected to the House, and it's a crazy man.
Yeah, and I know that guy. He's an agent provocateur.
Of course he is.
I had personal dealings with the guy. So
yeah,
it was nuts.
Hopefully that's.
I just found interesting the Douglas County Democrat Party, when they sent out their little flyer about their list of candidates, he wasn't listed.
What?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, he was not listed as a Democrat candidate in Douglas County.
He's the dude that runs around suing everybody for everything. The health department, the school board, I suppose whoever the district
he's an
attorney
attorney with the IRS.
Go figure. Now there's 87,000 supporters of his that are being brought on board. Before we cut away, let me just say real quick, here's some folks that we lost in July of this year, and I know you'll remember these names. This one, James Caan.
Yeah.
Sonny Corleone from The Godfather. Also another favorite movie of mine as a kid, Rollerball.
Right.
Brian Song.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brian Piccolo. That was great. Shinzo Abe, 67 prime minister. That was young, man.
Okay.
Tony Sirico, you may not remember the name, but this was Paulie from The Sopranos.
I was going to say.
I can't believe that guy's gone. He was 79.
All that Italian cooking,
Ivana Trump.
Really?
We lost Ivana Trump, 1973. She was the OG. She was the OG Trump wife, I think. Yeah. I think she was the first one. She is gone as well. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break. We're going to come back. We got Alexa and others on the line at 303-696-1971. Come join the conversation. Now, I've said if you've never called into the show, today's the day to do it. It's the last show of 2022. What I did not realize was people would just spontaneously and unsolicited show up in the studio. I'm not encouraging you to do that. But here for Corey, of course, we bent the rules a bit and we had you on board.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to all your listeners. Remember to share this, the YouTube video link with all your friends out there, folks. We need to keep this show going.
Yeah,
awesome, good stuff you're doing.
If you can, Corey, make it a condition of probation for the cases that you handle, that they go out there and do that. That is our good friend Corey Nelson. Corey, thanks for joining us. Stick around. We're in that last show of 2022. It's George Brauchler on the George Show. You're listening to 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler right back with you here on The George Show, 710 KNUS. My thanks to our unsolicited, uninvited, but certainly welcome guest, Corey Nelson, who just showed up bearing donuts. And if that's what you're going to do, if you're going to just show up at a radio station, bringing food probably defeats all the security measures that we have in place right here. I'm not encouraging you to do it in 2022. And frankly, we only have about an hour and a half left of that. Some other folks that are texting in here. Ray Guy. Oh, Raiders legend Ray Guy, Hall of Fame punter, passed away. He was the man back during the, I think it was Kenny Stabler, the Snake, all the battles with Craig Morton and the other Broncos during the 70s. Ray Guy was an incredible punter. After a year of destroying and boycotting Trump properties, a person had to know he was going to find a way to claim losses and not pay taxes. This shouldn't be a surprise knowing how he is. I don't think it's a surprise. I just do think it's something worth commenting on. We're going to go. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I know. Get to the phones for a second.
Yeah,
You're mentioning Ray Guy.
Yeah.
Just to totally derail things.
Oh, play. Okay.
Which I do quite often.
Yeah.
Why on an NFL football team do you have two different people kicking the ball? Why?
Those are
why
different
do we have
skills.
No, they aren't.
They are completely
No,
different.
Not
skills.
in the least. Not in the least. I don't understand why we waste two roster spots. One with a punter, one with a field goal kicker. Come on. All you have to do is kick the funny little egg-shaped ball. That's it.
It's not. This isn't
Sometimes
soccer.
you're holding it.
It's more.
Sometimes
more
it's on
skills.
the ground. I know, but guess what? We have soccer goalies that have this incredible ability
What?
to kick the ball both when it's on the ground and once they pick it up. It is amazing. I'm just saying, if us stupid soccer players can, figure this out, then NFL, come on.
It's worse than that because there was a time when the Broncos were carrying two kickers and a punter. We had a guy named Brad Deluiso.
Specialist.
Yep, Brad Deluiso was a kickoff specialist because he could kick the ball 1 trillion yards and always crush it through the end zone. This is back before the NFL monkeyed around with its lines. But we had Deluiso. Then we had, I can't remember who it was, kicking field goals. And we had a punter. We were carrying 3.
So what I'm saying is that all 3 of those people are so bad at their job, they had to hire 2 other people just to get the job done. I'm just saying,
I wonder.
NFL, you could get an extra roster spot for someone that would contribute a lot more. And this is, again, I'm a soccer person.
Double
I like
the pay?
the idea of kicking the ball. So I respect that. But I think it's stupid that they have 2 different people kicking the ball. Go ahead. You should be able to kick the ball either way. Doesn't matter. Stop the specialization and give me another damn linebacker or quarterback or running back or something.
But listen, if you just had a
this.
general practitioner for medicine, they can give you a lot of little advice on a whole bunch of things. But if you found out, hey, I need something done in the chest area, you go to a cardiothoracic surgeon. Now, am I saying that punting is cardiothoracic surgery? Yes. No, it's not, but it is. It's that idea.
I love the analogy. The problem, though, is have you seen the punters and kickers? If they were cardiothoracic surgeons, you'd have about a third of the patients dead.
I've told
They're
Graham, who's our football player. I've told Graham, listen, those are magical spots to be good at, because if you can be consistently good at punting or kicking, that's like being a left-handed fastball thrower, and that's a good ticket to the pros. The problem is, people only care about those positions when the game is on the line. Or if you're the punter, these guys are trying to crush you.
Oh, yeah.
They're trying to, and you see when the snap is bad or the punt goes wrong and those guys get to you, all you're wearing is like a beanie-like helmet and some really light pads. You get pummeled.
Thus, more incentive to be better at your job. Just saying. It's kind of inverse
Please,
relationship
O-line,
there.
help
Yes.
me. We're going to go to the phone lines. Alexa, you're on 710. Alexa, what's the weather today?
The high is 41. It's partly cloudy. It's currently 22.
I knew you would know.
Caller.
Yeah, of course. First time today.
First time listener.
You shot off some dates that are related to the show. It's incredible that you have the ability to pull these dates up. I don't understand it, but you have said that I'm trying to get to it right now. Dun, 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 dun,
No,
dun. This is a reminder that my 3-year anniversary is 2/22.
Yes. It's also Hugh Hewitt's birthday. But
It is? That's how you remember it?
Yeah.
That's so very
In part,
interesting. Yeah, I'm honored. I'm honored that my career started on his birthday sometime when he was in his 60s or something like that.
He was.
Oh, you're looking it up right now.
64. Nope, 64.
Alexa, do you have an Alexa
56.
at your house, or you change the name to something else like Billy? Like, hey, Billy.
We have an Alexa, and it's hilarious to hear my family members yell at it. and I just ignore them as usual. But,
What's on your mind for our last show of 2022?
well, let's just talk about KNUS's big lie of 2022, right?
What's the big lie?
We had a party. Someone was supposed to retire. He didn't.
Oh, I know who exactly you're talking about. A little PB.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he sort of
you
retired, Billy.
Well, kind of, yeah. But, no, actually, it was the more important thing about 2022 is you were just starting the year, Monday through Friday, 9 to 10, which really sucked. People wondered why I wouldn't do 9 o'clock meetings. And then come April, you got 4 hours, 5 days a week when you are in town and aroundish.
I did. In fact, for a time, it was going to be 5 hours a week because I had that 9 to 10 spot. And then, to go back, and folks know this, listen to the show, you have to know that I was very, very fortunate to be in a position to be asked to cover down for the legend, man, for Pete Boyles. And I do remember, consistent with what Billy said and what you said, I do remember having a conversation with Pete when he first talked about the idea of moving over towards like a Saturday show kind of a thing. And he was going to retire. And I remember invoking Tom Brady. I said, why don't you pull a Tom Brady? Just say you're retired, come back in a month, and your seat will be warm. And I can go back to sleeping in past 4 a.m. And he didn't do it. And I think he loves the position that he's in, being on Saturdays in that show. He's killing it there in terms of listeners and feedback and revenue and all that. He's doing great. But that is big, I guess, for this year for me. That is a big change. And I just got lucky. You know what I mean? It's a lightning strikes thing.
No, you are appreciated. And as I texted you earlier, you're a great storyteller. That is
okay. Now listen, now that you've got us there, now you reminded me, I had said at the end of the 6 o'clock hour when Billy talked about the knife thing. Okay. I had this case. I was not the main prosecutor on this thing. Okay. But it happened a long time ago. And I want to say it was Evergreen, Clear Creek area, but a dude breaks up with his girlfriend. That's how a lot of criminal stories start. Dude breaks up with a girlfriend. He ends up hooking up with another woman, and they go to his house, which is across a little bit of a river, like a creek out there in the wooded area, and goes to sleep. And they're sleeping together in the same bed. Probably neither of them are wearing a stitch of clothing, but the girl that he broke up with wasn't done with him. And so she slips across the creek. She lets herself into the house, and she begins to attack the girl in bed with him and attack him with a knife, and a fight is on, and the one girl gets stabbed, but she's able to get away, a little minor injuries relative. And the dude is like on top of her. They're wrestling, they're fighting. She's trying to stab them. I can't remember if there was a gun involved, but I remember the knife because girl that gets away calls 911. Police show up. They run in, they restrain this berserker ex-girlfriend lady. And this guy's obviously worked up, totally naked. They're like, hey, man, cover yourself up and sit down. And they said, and whatever you do, man, do not touch your head. And he's like, what do you mean? And he starts to reach up, and they grab his hand. They're like, you can't do it. You can't do it. And the reason that they didn't want him to touch his head is because she had stabbed him in the head with the knife, and the blade broke off and was protruding from the top of his head on the side. No joke. Dude had no idea, kept wanting to reach up and touch it, like you would anything. And the cops are like, no, don't do it. So it took some medical, I think he got lucky too in the placement of the knife, but it took some medical intervention there to free this blade, which was ultimately used to convict her, from the dude's skull. That's just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff that happens in the criminal law. But man, it's real. It's stuff that even the Hollywood doesn't come up with. Those are the best stories, are the real ones.
Well, I think you should start out 2023 with the sword story. So
with the sword story?
Monday through Friday. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Have I never told that one?
You've told it twice on Saturdays, but not for your Monday through Friday.
How do you know I've told it
that
twice?
I remember.
Your ability to recall or document what it's scary. It's really scary. You're like Oppo research for me if I run for office again.
I don't listen to all 4 hours all the time, but I get the most.
My goodness. Alexa, have a happy new year, and thanks for helping us close out 2022. You're a great listener.
Have a happy new year. Take care.
Thanks, sister. That was Alexa from your Alexa in your house. You didn't think she was a real person. She is, and she has all the information available at her fingertips at all the times. Now, listen, we're going to get to the callers at 303-696-1971. Brian, others. I promise I'll get to you if you hang around. We got to cut away for a break, but not before. I remind you about another superstar out there, and I wonder what he's doing for the new year, frankly. I have not heard from him in a few days, but our buddy Daniel J. Kaplis, the J, probably not for justice, but should be. In this holiday season, people make mistakes, and some of those mistakes are to get behind the wheel when they get loaded. They go to a friend's house, a family member's house, they get some drink on board, maybe they've had their edibles, Billy, whatever it is that takes them out of their safe driving mode, and they hurt people. Don't want to hurt people, don't intend to hurt people, but they do, and they need to be held accountable. I'm not talking about the criminal law because it does a poor job of that for those people. But when you're injured or someone you love is injured, your life is changed for the worse because of someone else's negligence or recklessness. You got to pick up that phone and you dial 303-770-3501, 303-770-5551. That rings the law offices of Dan Kaplis. Dan and Bobber are out there crushing it on behalf of those who have been hurt for decades now. Now, Bobber's, I know, has been doing it for 15 years because I tried his very first case with him about 15 years ago. Dan's been doing this thing for decades. If you're looking for, and I've seen the ads on TV and stuff like that. I've seen the pic. This guy has grown his firm. It's so much bigger and more successful than when I worked for Dan, which please don't read anything into that. But in fact, every firm I've been at has done better after I've left. Now that I think about it, I should ask Kellner, the DA, is the office better without me? I don't think I want to know the answer to it. But Kaplis' firm has been killing it forever. Let him do it on behalf of you. If you want someone you can trust to go out there and fight for you, they're not looking to make the quick score. They're looking to make the right score for you. And that is to put you in a position to try to get past as much as can be done. That long-term injury, that pain that you're suffering, that loss of the quality of your life, they're the ones that are going to get it done for you. The insurance companies know them. The insurance companies fear them. That's what you want in a champion. DanKaplisLaw.com, Kaplis, C-A-P-L-I-S, 303-770-5551. Dan and Bob are killing it. Let them do it for you. When we come back, we'll get to the texts, we'll get to the calls, we'll do some more updates. It's George Brauchler on this last George show of 2022. 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
In days of old lang. My dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for Should old acquaintance be forgotten, never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgotten, days of old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for days of old lang syne. Should old acquaintance be forgotten, never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgotten, days of old?
Oh my gosh, this takes me way back a little. Billy Idol right here. Man, he was huge on the early days of MTV. I remember that. We got cable at our house in Lakewood right about the time that MTV was taken off. And there was a whole bunch of other things I remember. Like if you remember early days of HBO, they would just play about the same programming over and over and over again. They'd have 2 or 3 shows or movies, and they would just repeat them throughout the day. And then they would repeat that day 2 or 3 days later. I ended up watching Taps with Timothy Hutton and Sean Penn and a very young, brand new Tom Cruise. Good Lord, a dozen times. I mean, it had a huge impact on me. That was a great movie. George C. Scott, of course, in there as well. And then I just saw an ad for an old movie called Ragtime. And I remember that too was one that I watched for, I think Edward Rollins was in that. There was, oh gosh, speaking of Timothy Hutton from Ordinary People, Elizabeth McGovern was in there. She was also in Ragtime. I am now exposing to you the fact that a lot of hours of my life have been spent consuming media.
In the cable, when I was a kid, what movie was always on? And I'm sure you remember this one. It seemed like every weekend, in the afternoon, Beastmaster.
Beastmaster was on
not
quite
a good movie.
bit. No,
not a good movie.
No, was it
but always
Tanya?
on.
What was her name? The hot lady in there,
I don't
Tanya
remember.
something
I'm
or other.
still scarred by that.
Beastmaster, and the guy that played it, Mark something or other, Mark Singer, Mark somebody. He had that look like, by the way, great physique, but that guy could have been the I have the power, the He-Man. You know what I'm talking about? He had that look to him. But he could make the raccoons dance or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. And the squirrels clap. I don't know what it was, but it was an interesting movie. That is not where I wanted to go with this segment. We had been talking about folks that we lost, and I was going to get to Billy here in just a moment because we had, and we have a phone call. We'll do Foo in the 9 along with some of these other folks. Right as I go to Nick, though, in Denver, let me say someone else that we lost that I left out from the previous month. Bradford Freeman. You don't know the name, but you'll remember this. Last survivor of the famed Army unit featured in Band of Brothers. If you remember that, Easy Company of the 101st Airborne, last surviving member, passed away on July 3rd. He passed away at age 97. We're going to go to Nick in Denver. Nick, what do you think?
As far as taxes are concerned, just a brief history in 30 seconds or less.
I'll need it.
The 2019, the 16th Amendment that allowed for a direct tax, which is what an income tax is, finally passed under very dubious circumstances in 1913, and the first income tax was in 1914. It was 6 pages long, maybe 8 pages long. If you made $5,000, you had to make $5,000 a year to even qualify to pay the tax. And $5,000 a year back then is like what, 40, 50 grand in today's money. It's grown into over 75,000 pages of unintelligible garbage that even Albert Einstein.
How many pages did you say?
It's over 70,000.
Oh, what?
So it's gone from, this is classic bureaucratic creep, if you want to call it that. It went from 6 to 8 pages. I know it was under 10 to over 70,000 pages. that prompted Albert Einstein to say the hardest thing to understand in the universe is the income tax. And the only way to really fix it, and it'll probably not happen for a long time, is to get rid of the whole thing. They've had over 110 years or whatever it is time to fix the system.
What's the fix, though? Tell me what the fix is.
In my humble opinion, go to a national sales tax, and this is a way it would work. Instead of taxing somebody's income or their productivity, which is stupid from an income from an economic point of view, you tax consumption. So in order to raise the same amount of money that our insane system now produces, you would have to have a national sales tax of about 14%. Now, a lot of people would balk at that. They say, God, I'd have to pay a 14% tax on top of the sales tax that's already there. And the answer to that question is, you're already paying this. It's just that you're not paying it up front. You're paying it over the course of a year. But the current system is unfixable. All Congress.
We just got to scrap it. We got to substitute something for it. I think you're right, Nick. There's problems, and I don't mind the idea of going down the road of a 14% tax if we've abandoned the income tax. And I think it would just take a little bit of an adjustment. And by the way, Happy New Year, Nick. Thanks for that history. I do remember 1913. What I didn't know is 5 pages has turned into 70,000. It's just craziness. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break. We're going to have that last hour. Again, it's all you this time. Text, calls 303-696-1971. Make it happen. I'm going to tell you about a couple other people that we lost leading into this. Paul Sorvino, we talked about Goodfellas before. Paul Sorvino was from Goodfellas. He was Paulie Cicero. He was also big-time detective on Law & Order, another big actor. Tony Dow. No, Mrs. Cleaver, Wallace is not home. Wallace has moved on to the Leave It to Beaver cast Up in the Sky. Bill Russell, super NBA player, 88 years old. And then here's a good one, too. Ayman al-Zawahiri of Al-Qaeda fame. Oh, yeah, took him out in a drone strike in Afghanistan earlier this year. Congratulations to everyone. We'll get to the others and you, 303-696-1971. It's the last hour of The George Show right here on 710 KNUS. George Brauchler right back with you here on 710 KNUS. This is it, folks. This is the final hour of the show for 2022. Of course, Billy and I will be back next Monday. Do we get Monday off, Billy, any chance?
I do. I don't know about you.
You son of a... Are you really not going to be here Monday? Is that true?
I'm not here Monday or Tuesday.
I'll be here Monday and Tuesday. I'll be here to kick off 2023. That says a lot about what we can expect, because that means Wednesday becomes our first day to do the 2023 new and improved Thorpe report, complete with pictures and video. I made that up. And then, of course, we ought to do that, by the way. We ought to figure out a way to do a You Choose the
there's
News
a dance number
online version.
Yeah, I've been stretching. There's a dance number that's coming in. I'm just saying.
One of the things that we've done in this last show, Billy, as you know, is we have talked about those that we have lost. And there's a ton. I mean, we just got through Leave It to Beaver, Wallace Cleaver, Tony Dow. But there was someone that we had mentioned earlier, way earlier in the show.
Yeah,
I think most,
missed it.
most
Otherwise, I would
folks
have
missed
jumped
it.
on in. I'm so
But
sorry.
it is the drummer for a big time band. I'm a fan. You're probably an expert in them. Tell us about who we lost.
Yeah, we lost Taylor Hawkins, a drummer for Foo Fighters. Before Foo Fighters, he was the touring drummer for Sass Jordan and also for Alanis Morissette.
Wow.
Had a nice career, had a really good career. One of the cool things, Taylor talked about his vast influences and realized that he is a modern rock drummer, but he said is the classic rock drummers where he really kind of learned the chops, learned what he was doing. Some of the people that he admired as drummers were Phil Collins of Genesis, Jane's Addiction drummer Stephen Perkins, Ringo Starr, of course, the Beatles, and Neil Peart of Rush, Alex Van Halen. And I really always appreciated this one. He also liked Budgie, who is the drummer for Susie and the Banshees, a very good new wave band. And he was always, I felt, underappreciated. But the top two influences that Taylor Hawkins said in his life were two of the greats, Roger Taylor of Queen and Stuart Copeland of the Police, which for me really, again, elevated him because Stuart Copeland doesn't, in my mind, get the respect he deserves. Stuart Copeland is an unbelievable drummer, but he doesn't pound and go loud. What he does is he moves the song along. And if you listen closely to what Stuart's doing, his drum times and signatures are really unique, and he's also an excellent syncopated drummer. And that's where he really shines in my opinion. And you can hear Taylor kind of do that. In fact, according to a couple of musicologists that I had looked at this morning, they think that this may be one of Taylor's top 4 or 5 best contributions to the band, the Foo Fighters. You'll recognize this song. It was a big hit. It's called Best of You. But what they want to highlight is here at the beginning here, we're part of the way through the song, how Taylor's drumming and it builds and then he just goes nuts. Not there yet. And Taylor.
Oh, my goodness. That's a lot of
you want to go out.
there.
Yeah, you want to go out.
Nobody
and find a
ever
song.
says I'm going Buddy Rich anymore. You know that?
No, nobody does. The funny thing though is that if you go out and you look, go find the song Rope. It's around 2010, I think. It's off the Back and Forth album. Go find Rope. That for me is one of Taylor's best bits of work.
Is that a Foo
he's
song?
ever done. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But nobody knows it because it's never on the radio. So again, you got to go out and find
His death was unexpected, by the way. Dude was only 50 years old.
Yeah, it was awful. It was unexpected. It was in Bogota, Colombia, I believe. He called downstairs and instead he was suffering from heart pains. By the time the EMTs got there, he was in cardiac arrest. They couldn't revive him. And there's all sorts of swirls about, things that were in his system. I think they found up to 10 different types of drugs and or medications.
Holy
They were in
smokes.
his body at the time. Some of them simple over the counter, some of them not so simple and much
Not
more
so over the
pharmaceutical.
counter,
Yeah, not so much at all. So yeah, that kind of contributed, but it was difficult. That band is something that means a lot to me. And I don't know.
Yeah, buddy, that's a tough one too. One other thing about the Foo Fighters, and that was David Letterman's sign-off show. After he'd been on forever. He tells this story about how these guys came back to play for him after he'd had his own heart attack or whatever that health issue was. And they had developed this bond ever since. And sure enough, they interrupted their worldwide tour to fly back to play out his last show that he ever did on the Late Show, which was, I don't know, it was really cool. I'm a big Foo fan.
I forget which, I don't know if it's that performance or which one it is, but the one that always caught me, the Letterman performance from the Foos, is the one where all the members are in a really nice three-piece suit. They're all in black and white, with the exception of Taylor Hawkins, who's sitting behind the drums in a white T-shirt, because that's how hard he had to play. He couldn't do it in a suit. He's like, guys, I can't do it. There's nothing I can do. And I appreciate that. I love that. It's
he couldn't do the suit T-shirt. You know what I mean?
I know he could have. Yeah, I think maybe enough planning, but I love the fact that everybody else is in a suit and then behind you got Taylor in the T-shirt. I just think that is a great visual. I love that about him and the band.
It's a big loss. Listen, all these are big losses, but especially when they're young and they're still productive and they're artists and we lose some stuff from them, that's kind of a big deal. Billy, now that I've got you on the phone here.
Oh, yes.
I was asking other folks that had called in, and I want to keep doing this with you too at 303-696-1971. First off, go to the YouTube channel. I'm looking at you right now. Look for 710 KNUS, The George Show, whatever. Subscribe to it, like it, send it around as your sort of end of the year thing that you're going to do for your friends and family who you don't want to hear from again, and be part of this thing. Now, I had asked other callers, and you can be part of this, the biggest story for them, non-political story of 2022. Now, Corey Nelson, who was our uninvited but more than welcome surprise guest who brought donuts. And I just want to say, if you're listening, Corey, on your way to work, damn you, because I ate one. I had no intention of eating a donut today or at all, because one of my New Year's resolutions was going to be try to figure out a way to get rid of the 30 pounds I put on post-pandemic.
Well, unlike you, as soon as Corey walked in and opened up the box of donuts, I knew exactly what donut I was going to be consuming. In fact, as soon as we went to break, I went back to the kitchen to make sure I was the first one there, as that coconut donut was all mine. All mine.
You got it too. There was just the one, and it's gone.
So good.
No doubt about it.
There was only one. That's why I had to get there before.
I grabbed a cake one, and my apologies to Deb Flora at 3 and Stefan at 4.
Yeah.
It will appear that there is some sticky DNA-like substance on the mouse here that works the texts. It's not. It's donut stuff.
That means it can lick it off later.
Thank you. Hard, buddy. If you were to blacklight this room, it would be like Tron Legacy in here. You know what I mean? Like, woo, uncomfortable.
That'd be really bad.
And some of the stuff, I'm afraid to know what it is.
Yeah,
like,
it's almost better to not know.
There's something that happens with land where when it gets poisoned by whatever toxic chemicals, there has to be reclamation. You couldn't reclaim this.
No.
We just have to burn it down.
Sometimes you don't want to really know how it happened. It's like the gentleman that we talked about a couple of days ago that walks into the French hospital and causes a bomb threat because he has inserted an artillery shell into an orifice of his body where things should not be placed. So but again, you don't really want to know how he did that. You're like, I don't really want to know the process. I don't need to know the decision making. I don't need to know what led to this. But let's just move on. Yeah, it's one of those things. You don't really want to know what happened in that room.
No. As an aside, while we were talking through this up on Fox right before the commercial, was Congressman Greg Steube out of Florida. Really small connection with Greg. Greg was a young captain out at the 25th Infantry Division on Hawaii when I got mobilized out there to help with a murder case. And Greg was on his way to, I think, Afghanistan when he did. But that guy came back and has just been tearing it up. He's a multi-time elected congressman out there, able to grow facial hair, apparently, because he has a beard and mustache. I didn't know him that way. Listen, we're going to take your phone calls. Some of the things that are texting in here are, biggest story is breakthrough in fusion energy at Lawrence Livermore Lab. It could be historically, right? Like we may look back on that like we do Oppenheimer and the splitting of the atom. Maybe that's what we'll do. But for right now, it just hasn't gathered that much attention. It has been a story that was covered for a day or so, but I agree that anything we can do to squeeze more energy out of our surroundings without further pollution or degradation of the environment's got to be a plus, and not being wedded to just when it blows or just when it's sunny. That's got to be a huge thing as well. A couple other things to tell you about folks that we lost. Vin Scully. And I think I remember doing a little bit of sound from Vin back in August when we lost him. That guy's voice is like Al Michaels for me. Like when you hear it, or Keith Jackson on Saturdays with the football. I mean, these are just voices you grow up with. And Vin Scully, of course, the longtime announcer for Brooklyn and Los Angeles Dodgers. He spent 66 67 years in the booth. That I haven't even spent 67 years on the planet. We lost him. And another big one, you'll remember this because it was pretty recent, Olivia Newton-John. Yeah, that's a tough one too. I mean, I remember growing up with Olivia Newton-John, and you talk about those early days of cable in the Brauchler household. Getting MTV also meant getting Let's Get Physical, Physical. And that was one of the most provocative, at the time, perhaps even controversial videos. Right now, that would be rated G on the stuff that gets put out on videos. Olivia Newton-John's Let's Get Physical, and H. Of course, we lost at age 53 as well. Let's go to the phone lines, 303-696-1971. Jennifer, you're on 710. How are you?
Happy New Year, George.
Happy New Year. What are you doing for it? Anything special?
My kids are coming up, so I'm going to spend some time with them and have a, just enjoy that, time. I moved away from them this year, which was a big change for me.
Yeah.
And they're old enough where they can come see mom.
How
so I'm
old
really
are the
excited
kids
about
that you know of?
20. The ones I claim are 21 and 18.
Oh man, that's full on
super
adults.
proud of them.
I mean, you're like an empty nester for sure.
Yeah, one's in college. The other's has some special needs, but she's doing really well. She's working in a daycare, and super proud of them. So I'm excited to see them.
And do you guys stay up and watch the ball drop? Do you listen, one of them is legal, the other one isn't. Do you sit around and get your drink on? I mean, what are you doing?
I don't know. We haven't really planned it out yet. I don't know if we go hunt down fireworks or if we stay home. I'm just going to kind of leave it up to them.
Well, that's not why you called in, but I'm glad that you did. What are your thoughts?
Story of the year isn't, to me, it's not necessarily one particular story, but it's sort of a culmination of what went on this year. And that's coming out of the pandemic and adjusting to life. I've read an article about how people are exhausted right now. And the reason they're exhausted is, we had 2020, then 2021 was kind of a perpetuation of 2020. And in 2022, we all kind of came out and got into groups again, and we had to relearn how to socialize. And, all of a sudden it's like, you got to catch up on everything. I got to catch up on my career goals. I got to catch up on my friends. I've got to catch up on everything that we're expected to do in life. And I think that's kind of the story of the year. At least it is to me.
Well, and does that story end here on the doorstep of 2023, or does it continue on?
Well, and you bring up a good point, because one of the things I like to do with New Year's is not necessarily, I kind of reflect on the year that's gone by, but I look forward to the new year and things I want to accomplish or things I'd like to see come to pass, sort of a planning time. So I don't know, maybe we start to chill out in 2023. Maybe we get more equilibrium.
I want that to be true, but the thing that I think is the monkey wrench in that hope is the economy. I mean, I am horrified at what could be in front of us. And you can't, there's so much news out there, as you know, some of it more credible than others, but you can't read an article about the economy and get sort of this mixed sense of, hey, there's going to be a recession, but it'll be a small one. We'll bounce back. There's going to be a giant recession. We have a huge correction coming. So say some billionaires, there's not going to be a recession. I mean, but the things that are out there freak me out.
I agree. I mean, I'm at an age where I can't really, I need to start accelerating some things if I'm going to, get into my later years in life. And, but I also
35.
Yeah. How did you know?
Well, just the sound, basically. I'm going off of the audible.
There you go. I have hope because we've had tough economic times before and we've come out of them. But a friend of mine during the pandemic was in a panic mode when all this money was being distributed. And he kept saying to me, you don't understand, inflation's going to go nuts. And at the time, I think inflation was like 2% or whatever. And I sort of had this Pollyanna look at it. Oh, no, it'll be okay. We'll figure it out. And he was 100% right. And so I am concerned, but I also know I still believe in ingenuity. And, we were talking about how people don't want to work anymore. One of your callers said people don't want to work anymore. I agree with that. But I still have hope. I think 2023.
How about your kids? Do you see work ethic
in
your kids, Jennifer?
100%.
Huh.
My son worked odd jobs at a very young age. He's in college now, and
Yeah.
I help him with that. But he works summers, he works, off hours, and he got a 4.0 this last
Oh,
semester.
wow.
I'm super proud of him.
That's terrific.
And I think, yeah, I'm proud of him. My daughter's working now and doing a great job of transitioning into adult life. And so in my kids, I see it. I'm concerned about their generation. But I also think there's great opportunity, George. When people sit on the sidelines, those people who are industrious get that opportunity to move ahead.
Do they?
So, I
Do
don't know.
they? I mean, isn't there going to be a greater expectation? This gets back to our tax discussion. A greater expectation
Yeah.
that those who have been successful, first off, they'll never be viewed as successful based on their own efforts. They're always going to be viewed through that President Barack Obama, you didn't build that sort of mentality. Like, you owe us because of this, or you inherited it, or there's no, even with Donald Trump, right? There's a sense that whatever billions he made, he doesn't really get credit for because he inherited millions. And I'm like, no, I mean, listen, he definitely started off in a better position than I did, but he didn't lose the money. He didn't stay at the status quo. He grew it. But there is a growing, I think, sense of, if you're that person, you're there because of privilege, and you should have to pay to support more of the people that are takers more than they are givers.
Yeah, I understand your perspective. I totally see it. It's an unrealistic expectation. There's an entitlement right now that I think we see in society. But I also know, as being someone who kind of restarted her career after raising kids, et cetera, and putting hard work in, that there is opportunity out there. And I want to believe that hard work will always be rewarded.
Couple
We'll
last
see.
questions for you. What's your big prediction for 2023?
Oh, well, I
Didn't
guess
see
a
that coming.
recession.
Well,
Like
the
we're
recession, but
talking,
something not recession. Something that you think, I see this, nobody else is seeing this.
I would hope a return to values that have made this country great. I'm concerned about that, of course.
Which, name one or two of those
Prediction for
values.
The family, like we're talking about, hard work pays off. Helping one another, a hand up, not a handout.
I want
a lot
that.
of
We
those-
all want that to be
those-
true. Jen, did you
Yeah.
know that this year we lost somebody named John Aniston, 89, Emmy-winning star of
I
Days of Our
know.
Lives and father of Jennifer Aniston.
Yes, and I was going to text you about that, but I let it go.
Well,
But Joey and Chandler say hi, and we're keeping the group going. So, but there is one thing I want to say.
That's right, Joey.
I want to thank you and Billy for what you do every day, because I
thanks.
am a faithful listener, and you guys have a unique product, highly engaging.
So you're the one, Jennifer.
Great guest.
That's right.
I am the one, Jennifer. I've the YouTube thing I can't quite stay with. Sorry, guys, but
Is
you
it
have a
because
unique
of
product.
listen?
You are
Is it because
constantly-
of our physical appearance? Is that the concern, that you see it and you think to
No, it's
yourself,
because
later I'll have to eat? I can't do this.
Because I want to set down my phone and listen to you guys as I go about my morning routine.
Oh, there's got to be a way to put it on the big screen.
Well, I'll have
kidding.
to think about that. But
Gotta have
you
an
do get
overhead
curious when
projector
you
or
say,
something.
"Oh, I got a new haircut."
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You saw it. It's a real haircut. I'm not making that up. This isn't a trim. This is you sit down
No,
in the
it's
seat.
tight on the sides, dude.
Yep. You say to the nice lady, I'd like a half. And she instantly corrects you because you're too old to have actually asked for that. She goes, did you say a 1.5? I'm like, no, a half. I'd like a half. I debated about skin, about going 0, but I'm going to go with a half. And she's like, okay, I guess I'll try to blend it in up top. And then you end up looking like a cancer patient when you throw a hat on.
It'll grow, George.
That's what they say.
It was fascinating to learn that Bill talks with his hands.
Oh yeah, he does.
He does that quite a bit. Talks with his hands.
He does. It's ridiculous, but you're right. People don't get to normally see that. You're right. That's a good insight. That's why you got to keep watching. Jen, Happy New Year. We'll talk with you in 2023.
Happy New Year, guys.
See ya. Hey, great call, and we're willing to take more. If you have not yet called in 2022 or ever, now's your chance to do it. We only have a couple segments left. We'll reserve them for you. We've got some text coming in. You can always hit us on the text. 303-696-1971 is the number. I do want to tell you about this. As you look at the end of the year, you start looking at your household budget and you think, what can we do to upgrade our home in the new year? Make 2023 something special on the inside. A great place to call, a great place to go, a great person to speak with, Mitch Floria at The Art of Granite. The website's easy. It's theartofgranite.com. But here's what they do: the countertops for your bathroom and for your kitchen. They don't just do granite. It's called The Art of Granite, but what you don't know until you go to the website and frankly get in the car and drive out there to about 6th Avenue and I-70-ish, Colfax-ish, in that area, very close, easy to get to. Is that they do granite, they do quartz, they do marble, they do all the other things that people right now bend to their will to come up with some sort of a classic look, an artistic look in their kitchen or in their bathroom. And Mitch is sold on the idea that customer service and craftsmanship are the two things that separate him from all the others that try to do the same thing that he's been doing for so long at such a high level. He's also sold on the idea that being a 710 listener matters, not just because he's a 710 listener, but because he values the things that we value. And so here's what he says. If you mention KNUS and the George Show at the time that you hook up with him, you'll receive a bathroom countertop for free with the purchase of your new kitchen countertop. But if you're like, that's cool, then he'll throw the sink in with it. Whether it's the bathroom or the kitchen, he'll do that as well. Now you go to theartofgranite.com, and granite, if you're me, you had to read it. It's got a T in it, not a D. It's the Art of Granite, NITE.com, or give a call on this number right here, 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919. That gets you Mitch, and it also gets you one step closer towards beautifying your home. Give him a shout. When we come back, we'll get to the lines, we'll get to the texts. It's George Brauchler on The George Show. 2022 is just about up. 710 KNUS. Sing along. I love rock and roll. Little JJ and the BHs right here on 710 KNUS.
But her first band was better.
What was it?
The Runaways. So much better. I mean, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts is fantastic, but the Runaways, come on. Joan Jett singing lead and Lita Ford on guitar. Come on.
Lita Ford.
Come on.
Now, she had her own flash in the pan kind of solo career for a bit. Very attractive guitarist from the 80s.
No, the Runaways. That's it. The Runaways are, they're the stuff.
We're going to have to do that in 2023 with some bumper music there. Listen, we're running out of time. We've got 2 segments left here on the George Show for 2022. Happy to take your calls. Some texts coming in here questioning the decision on the YouTube. Someone, Joan, I'm going to say it, has N with 8 O's after it in response to putting the YouTube on the big screen. Come on now. Someone saying, watching on YouTube, thank you. Haircut looks fine. Thank you so much. And without the hat, I got to tell you, it's exactly what it's supposed to be, and that is a military qualifying.
Could have gone
right
for a
there.
dye job, though. I'm just saying there were some choices.
If it's something I could wash in and wash out, I'd think about it. But I feel like anyone that saw that didn't know that we were doing this as part of some radio thing would be like, "Man, George is going through something."
Yeah, exactly. It's a midlife crisis. Where's
is,
the Corvette? Yeah.
And by the way, I've already had a couple. I mean, it would just add to the list of midlife crises that I've gone through.
Yeah, you and me both.
We have been going through some of the lists here of things. We've got callers that are calling right now. I promise to get you. Some of the other folks that have passed on, I just want to do this because I want to honor them. And each one of them is a memory for me, probably for you too. Len Dawson, Hall of Fame quarterback with the Chefs. Len Dawson. And I grew up watching Len Dawson on that HBO show with Nick Bonacani, Inside the NFL. I watched that for years, and it was one of the things I could sit down and watch with my great uncle Doug, who was also a member of the 101st Airborne that jumped into France during World War II. So losing him, that's a big one. Mikhail Gorbachev, remember the battles with Reagan and Bush, and kind of helped to spur along through glasnost the end of the Soviet Union. That was huge. Bernard Shaw from CNN. I grew up watching that guy on CNN. I imagine you did too. Of course, Queen Elizabeth. Of course, that one was covered huge. Ken Starr, special prosecutor for the investigation of a guy named Bill Clinton. Remember Monica Lewinsky and all that other stuff? Oh, yeah. It's what led to Clinton's impeachment. And to be clear procedurally, Bill Clinton was impeached. He just was not removed from office, just like President Donald Trump was impeached. He just was not removed from office. Louise Fletcher, you don't know the name, big time actress. She was Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And then, of course, rounding out September, Coolio from Gangsta's Paradise. I wish I'd had all this music queued up. I wish I'd have told Billy in advance to give him a chance to do it because he could have worked his magic. Let's get to the phone lines. Gary, you're on 710 KNUS. What do you think, Gary?
Hey, George. One of the things that's blessing in this year was, when Peter left his show, I really didn't realize how much I'd miss him. But
me too.
You've quickly become the best show on this station.
Oh, thanks for saying that.
And I'll tell you why. I think a lot of talk shows these days, they hide behind text messaging. They don't take calls. And I think it's because it's a way to control the conversation the way they want to by hiding behind text messages.
I wonder, there are shows not on this station. There are shows out there, and I listen to them. I survey the dial and stuff when I'm in the car. But there are shows that are out there that as close as they'll come to a live conversation with a real human being like Gary or Joe or any of the other regular callers, or any callers for that matter, is that you can call in and like leave a message. And it's called talkback or something. And they'll call in and you could say something like, Billy, I just want to let you know I can even see through the YouTube. You have really poor personal hygiene. And then they just leave it at that. And then you can listen to that and play it and respond to it. But the you and me thing, Gary, that we're doing right now, you're right. I don't think there's a lot of folks that do that anymore.
Well, and the other thing that's an indicator of how good your show is you don't get just a bunch of sycophants calling in that always agree with you. You get a lot of callers that disagree with you. And you know who else is like that is Dan Kaplis.
Yeah. Yep. I'm a big fan of Dan's. And frankly, Dan had been doing this for a long time before. That's kind of where I got my start. It was with Pete when he helped me through once I won this contest I've talked about before. Pete was a huge help to me, but so was Dan back with the other station. And Dan would have me fill in for him back on the old Caplis and Silverman show. And that was a great experience for me. And I got to learn right there how to do this thing. And the calls for me matter. And when you say it's not just sycophants, I like that. I mean, I love it when people call up and they agree and we can talk about, an issue, but I really like it when people feel comfortable enough to call up and say, I'm going to say stuff that you don't agree with, and I'm willing to have the conversation with you. That takes a little guts, Gary. You know that.
Yeah, and there's certain shows I listen to for content, and yours is one of those, and Jimmy Sangenberger is one of those. There's other shows that I listen to listen to how they manipulate callers, and it's really not about content. I listen to them just for the enjoyment of watching how they try to manipulate callers, but you don't do that, and I appreciate it.
Well, Gary, I appreciate the kind words. Before we let you go, though, I do want to ask you, biggest not political story for you, 2022, and Ukraine's been taken.
Well, let's see. Not political. God, it's been such a political year. It's almost hard.
It always is anymore, right? It always is.
Yeah. I don't know. Would you consider a business? I guess Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter.
That is big news. That's huge. That could ultimately turn out, much like the fusion energy thing, to be the story of the year. If Twitter goes bust, and I'm not sure that it is, but if it does, we'd look back and say, that's how it happened.
I still can't believe he paid $45 million for a company that's now worth $2 or $6 million.
Is that all it's worth now?
Yeah, the stock's dropped.
Oh my goodness, that's market value. Wow.
Yeah, the market value when he first bought it was 23. I think it's down to 6.
Billy says Tesla stock is down 70% this year. It hasn't been a good end of 2022 for Elon Musk. The other thing that's taken a hit is just the perception of Elon Musk, right? Like for a while, he was looked at as sort of, I told Billy this all the way through this Twitter stuff. I'm like, I want to believe he's crazy like a fox and that this is all going to turn out to be super awesome and he'll be a genius again. But so far, he's hidden it.
Yeah, you're right. For such a smart guy, he's doing a lot of dumb things.
I don't get it. Hey, Gary, Happy New Year. Thanks for the super kind words. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, and I really enjoyed to hear about your son's speech at the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And he sounds like a really great kid.
He is a really great kid. Thank you for that, Gary. I appreciate that. I wish I could get that really great kid to come on to the radio, and I begged him in a break yesterday, and he said no. I told him what a great job he'd done on the speech and stuff, and he said, I was forced to do it. I'm not going to be forced to go on the radio. And I said, man, you're a grown man now. You're 18 years old. You get to make your own decisions, but you're grounded. No, I didn't say that, but I just don't think I'm going to be able to get Trey on. Someday we'll get Trey on in the saddle here and do all this stuff right now. We're going to cut away for our last break before we get to Joan and everybody else who's called in. But I really don't get a chance to do that until I finish up almost every single show. And we'll try to mix it up in 2023 as well. And that is to talk to you about our friends at Littleton Fine Jewelry. You've gotten through the holiday season almost, and you're looking at 2023 and trying to figure out, what am I going to do to make it special? One of the things you can do, take your jewelry into Littleton Fine Jewelry. Get them to fix it up, get them to clean it up. Watch too, get your watch repaired as well. You can also go out there, buy and sell any of the gold and silver and jewelry that you have, the coins that you're trying to unload, maybe even before the end of the year. That would be cool as well. But the thing that they really stand out, is in the custom design jewelry stuff. It's the kind of thing that they do, that they just do at a different level and with a different kind of customer service than you get anywhere else, including those big national box store like things out there at the malls. There's nothing wrong with those stores, but there's something more right about Littleton Jewelry. So get in your car, drive out there. It's an easy trip to get to, easy place to find. You turn at the jewelry repair sign just south of Hudson Gardens, southbound Santa Fe. You're on the west side. Turn in there. Tell Jesse and his team that are there that you listen to 710. They do too. They love it when you come in and tell them, I heard about you on 710. We love that also. Go in there and check it out. And when you come back, I want to know about the experience. You can text us, you can call us, you can email us. I'd love to hear about your experience at Littleton Jewelry. When we come back, Joan, other calls, other texts, and we'll wrap up 2022. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler on the George Show, back with you for the final segment of 2022. We're going to go right to the phone lines. Joan, you're on 710. Joan, Happy New Year.
No!
It's happening. It's going to happen, sister. We're going to leave 2022 in the rearview mirror. What's the biggest story for you?
I believe that the biggest non-political story, and you know I like politics an awful lot, was how long it took them to fire the coaches for the Broncos.
Oh, my goodness. The Hackett thing, right?
Right.
I agree with you. I think that took forever, although I read the article afterward, you may have too, historically, pretty quick. I mean, it's one of the top firings. Most guys get a chance to fail for an entire season, but we cut him loose right after that bloodletting there in L.A.
Yeah, but we should have let him loose 2 months earlier. I mean, seriously, if you're going to make history, make history.
Any big plans for New Year's?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to a party at a friend of mine's family complex, and I'm looking for some kind of toast.
Because Roman meal?
Towards the
Rudy's, something?
I don't know. You know, we all do stand around. We don't do champagne. We do prosecco.
Oh yeah, sure.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Because we're lightweights, you know that.
Teetotaler.
We had people in last night for chili supper because this week is just such a dead week, you know?
Yes,
it's
it
really
is.
Dead.
It truly is.
And you can have really lovely small dinner parties. We only had 8 people. And you can really talk about some really interesting issues. We had a woman who is a librarian, and she talked an awful lot about slave history and some of the stuff that, it was very, very enlightening, and we had a good time.
Well, that sounds fantastic. Joan, I know you're going to listen to us in the new year. That happens on Monday. It'll be a Billy free show, but George will not be free. George will be here. And I hope you're watching us on YouTube, Joan. Big screen.
You know that. And you know how principled I am. And you know how
you can change your principles.
No, see, that's the whole problem, George, is everybody keeps saying, well, if you just compromise and you just no.
I'm not asking you to compromise. I'm asking you to expand.
Listen, I cannot expand anymore in this new year.
Believe me, if you're talking about calories, I'm right there with you, sister, because I really need to get this under control. Joan, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. And Happy New Year to Billy. It's hard for me to listen without Billy. It really is.
Oh, believe me, I feel the same way, and I'm the guy you're listening to. Joan, thank you so much for being such a loyal listener and a great caller. Brian, you're on 710. What do you think, Brian?
Hey, George.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, just wanted to say Happy New Year,
Happy
guys.
New Year,
and
buddy.
you know, when Pete left the show, I was really sad because I had gone rounds with him, and in good ways and bad ways.
Same.
And I wouldn't even say bad ways because it's just good debate, you know. And he was always a gentleman about it. You've taken the reins, and I feel the same way that you filled the void for me that I thought I was going to lose forever.
Oh, thanks for that.
So I'm really thankful.
I think you're one of the people Gary's talking about too, that, hey man, we don't always agree on stuff, but you at least have the guts and the willingness to come on and have the conversation so we can talk about it. I think that's the way you ought to do it in real life. But 2, that's just good radio. I mean, if it's just people calling up to say, you know, I agree with you, there's some value to that. But the better value is let's explore this, man. Am I wrong? Like, I don't think I'm right all the time. So it's good to have the conversation.
Absolutely. And if we could do this show in real life, the world would be a better place as far as politics go and other topics, you know, because I think you do bring different sides to it, and you don't always agree with people, but you're civil about it, and you call people out when it's necessary, but you listen to a point of view that's different. That's very unique in this day and age, whether it's a radio show or just talking to somebody. So I'm really thankful for that. And my story of the year is got to be the World Cup. I'm not a big soccer fan, but that game was amazing.
Nuts.
It was not only the shots, it was the saves at the end that were amazing. The back and forth. Got to be one of my top 10 sporting event championships ever. And that's saying a lot when I'm not a big soccer fan.
Billy would know this, but it may be, I'm just saying this with my limited experience, it may be the best final game in World Cup history. I mean, the Mbappe Messi thing was just insane. What a narrative. I mean, craziness.
Oh, absolutely insane. And RIP Pele. Too bad all the highlights I tried to show my son, some of them, they're in black and white and blurry. We didn't have the resolution that we had. But if you see some of his, 3 World Cups, 1,200 goals, you see some of the moves he put on people.
Hey, Brian.
Guy faked out 4 people.
Hey, Brian, go find the shot. It's in color of Brazil. I believe it's the 1970 World Cup when they're playing Czechoslovakia. That's in color, and they've got some decent stuff there. Pele has an amazing goal that I talked about earlier where he brings the ball down with his right foot. He's on the right side of the goal, and he bends it around the goalkeeper into the far side of the net. And that at least your kids might appreciate because at least it's in color. That one may help. So Czechoslovakia, Brazil, World Cup.
Well, I saw when he was doing a free shot, and they were lining up, and one of the guys ran off the line, but another one like slowly fell, and he kicked it off the guy's body and deflected it into the goal.
Yep. Oh, it's amazing.
I've seen amazing stuff, but you guys are great. Happy New Year to you guys, and I'll be listening next year for sure.
Happy New Year, Brian. You're one of the guys that makes this show go. I really appreciate it. We're going to try to get on one more call if we can here to wrap up 2022. Jesse, you're on 710. What do you think?
Hey, George. Nice to end the year with you. And
same.
I just wanted to know, I kind of do like every time that you throw in your little comedy thing, like your son.
Right.
Grounded. But when you do that every so often, you should do that more this upcoming year. But I think that, Colorado might start being the center of the United States because, the edges are, being bombarded with water or whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
But the World Cup, I used to watch like when Pele used to make the Pepsi commercials and stuff.
Yeah.
And when that was one of my favorites when I started learning how to speak English and stuff. But
now, Jesse, a couple questions. One, I had not thought about this till you brought it up, even though I should have, and that is water may be one of the biggest stories of 2022. Also, it got some coverage here at the end, but that too could prove to be like fusion, and that could prove to be one of the biggest stories of our lifetimes because the changes aren't like 1 year. These are big permanent changes that are affecting the outside the metro area pretty hard.
And then the water, it's not just rain, it's also snow and stuff like New York and stuff. So that's how come they're moving over here to the center, and nobody likes anywhere else but the center, which is Denver. So
Right. Well, I like the outer areas too, as you know, that's still part of America. Jesse, Happy New Year, man. Thanks for being such a good listener and calling in.
George, let me say one more thing.
Sure.
If you and Peter Boyles were to get a team, you guys would be intelligent and funny.
I think Pete's the intelligent
get
one.
him on at least one hour a day every Friday, starting the 23rd.
Maybe we'll explore that in 2023. Great idea. Jesse, thank you so much, my man. Happy New Year to you. We've got some text coming in here, the Happy New Year text. You can keep that coming. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to 23 as well. Happy New Year, George and Billy. And someone who said I should get some Spanx. That's thank you for that reference right there. That's all I got. Billy, anything you want to shout out to listeners for the last words? You and I are going to get to speak live on air this year.
Oh, man. I would have prepped a burp or something. But I just pull my finger. The only thing I got to say is that New Year's Eve, it's a whole lot more fun when you're younger because you get to this age. One of the things, though, as a parent growing up was I love the fact that as the kids were little, we were in the mountain time zone because by 10 o'clock, I can show them the
ball
New
dropping.
York ball dropping. Okay, get your butts to bed. Everybody.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. You stayed up. Congratulations. Everybody to bed.
I'm shooting for that. I'm shooting for East Coast ball drop. And then I can't stay up. And it's this job that's killing me, man. It's getting up in the 4 o'clock hour that just makes 9 o'clock seem like midnight to you. Listen, everybody, thank you for a great year. We're going to have a full year together next year, unless they cut me loose for 2023. Happy New Year, everybody. We'll see you next year. It's me, George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS.
Should old acquaintance be forgotten, never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgotten, days of old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for days